Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Hi, Michelle.
I see I'm not on video yet. Start video, there we are.
Good morning.
How are we all doing out there on Zoom land? Wonderful.
Good, thank you.
Very good. It's not the same, but it'll just have to do for now.
It works great for what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. So it looks like we have quite a few people here. I'll just give it another few seconds.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm putting what you wrote in there because I really need to do my next activity.
No, you can't do that, all right?
Banana.
I'm going to go ahead and get
You're on
started.
your granny. Keep me in order, Michelle.
School teacher as well.
Everyone muted here.
Is it coming to you? Does the sound come to you as well?
Perfect. So we'll go ahead and just kind of get started. I'd like to say hello and thank you for coming to our regional presentations for the Mornington Peninsula. We had a ton of entries from you guys, so it's very exciting. First off, you all probably know my name. Maybe some of you have seen me. I'm Emma, the one who sends you thousands of emails on a regular basis. So I am the events manager in putting on today's presentations. I would like to take a few minutes and introduce all the KVB staff if you guys haven't met us before. So again, I'm Emma. And then we have Sabina, our wonderful CEO. I'll just have her give a little wave. I know we have quite a few people in the group. And then we have Gary and Anton, who are our volunteer coordinators. So they do all our volunteer programs. Gary is going to retire next year and Anton is taking over for us. And then we have Sam, who is our project and data coordinator. Give a little wave there. And then we have all our board members here. If all our board members could just give us a nice wave. It's very exciting. The nice thing with Zoom is we can have so many people join us to where if we traveled, it's a little bit trickier. Perfect. So to get started, I'm just going to have Gary unmute himself and just give a little bit of a background on Dame Phyllis Frost, our founder, and Keep Victoria Beautiful.
Thank you, Emma. Many of you people will have seen me before, as a lot of you have been lucky enough not to see me before. But yeah, Keep Victoria Beautiful has been operating for over 50 years now. We actually had a little do at Government House earlier this year to celebrate that. Keep Victoria Beautiful was initially started off as an anti-litter campaign. And because Emma's got me on a very strict timeline, I can't go through the usual sad old jokes that I tell about that. But yeah, started as an anti-litter campaign as under the efforts of Dame Phyllis Frost, who was a very strong advocate, both in the world of litter and also in women's prisons and the reformation of them. So as I said, yeah, we started off as an anti-litter campaign. Keep Victoria Beautiful has now evolved to an organisation which is much more widely involved in environmental issues in general, but litter is still one of our core interests, and that's still being demonstrated today by our involvement and leadership under the LEON program, Litter Enforcement Officers Network. So yeah, still very involved with litter, but as I said, the programs now look at more widely the environment. We do run 2 volunteer programs, Adopt a Roadside, which is a VicRoads program that we manage for VicRoads and have been doing so for many years. And our Stationeers program, which is a Keep Victoria Beautiful program, operates with the support of Metro Trains, V-Line, VicTrack, Public Transport Victoria. And we wouldn't be able to run the program unless they supported us to do that. The Adopt a Roadside program enables community volunteers to collect rubbish from roadsides in regional Victoria, and we very conservatively estimate that there's somewhere between 70 and 80 tonnes of rubbish removed from roadsides each year. We think it's probably a lot more, but we aren't able to collect the data to justify what we believe the figure is. Stationeers program enables community volunteers to beautify their local railway station. And in most cases, in a lot of cases, the groups see the railway stations as being one of their entrances to the towns in regional Victoria, but also as where it's beautified, a community asset in metropolitan Melbourne as well. Tidy Towns program has been running for over 30 years, and it's designed to recognise and acknowledge the activities taken by community volunteers, schools, local government. We know that a significant volume of works completed in Victoria are completed by volunteers, and governments at all levels wouldn't be able to run and do the projects that are being done by volunteers as well as what they already do at the moment. In previous years, I would have been touring Victoria at the moment, coming out to visit each of your people in your local towns, making presentations to the various community groups that have entered projects into the Tidy Town Awards. I am missing seeing the entrance in person. Over the years, I've met some wonderful people, and it's also great to see this year there's a lot of new towns that have entered, and also a lot of towns that have entered previously but have come back into the fold, so that's great to see. What I'm also going to miss, apart from missing the people I see and the faces I see, is I'll be missing the egg sandwiches and the homemade scones that invariably go with these events when they're held in person. But looking forward to hearing about all the projects, so away we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gary. So just quickly, I'll kind of go over how today works because it's not our usual regional presentations. What I will do is I will give everyone a chance to talk about their project, and I'll individually go through and say the project's name that's going to come up next. If you have entered more than one project, you'll have a separate 2 minutes per project, so I will call on you again. Some of them will be back to back, so you'll have a little bit longer. When you do get called on to present, you'll have to unmute yourself. Most people, I think, know how to use Zoom by now, but the bottom left of your screen, tablet or phone, will have the unmute section, or you can hold down the space bar. If you do the space bar, to just make sure you hold it down for the entirety time that you are speaking. When I am going through, you'll have that 1 to 2 minutes to talk. If you start getting a little bit closer to the 2 minutes and over, I'll just send you a private chat button message just saying, hey, start wrapping it up so we can stay on time because we do have quite a bit to get through today. And then finally, just when we do certificates, it'll be a little bit different this year because we can't come out and physically give them to you during these presentations. We will be sending them out after the awards event. So you will still get those. It just won't be today, obviously. Perfect. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. I am going to apologize in advance with my American accent and my English I learned back home. I will pronounce probably 90% of these names incorrectly. So just laugh it off and know that I'm trying. Perfect. So our first one, we are going to start with the A team to present.
Hi Emma, thank you. I'm presenting from the A team on behalf of Advanced College students. So we're from Hastings. We've got 15 to 19-year-olds who are completing their VCAL certificate in a flexible program. And they do have a lot of pride in their community, and they found that litter was a huge issue in that area and dumping of rubbish. So they surveyed the community. They did GPS tracking of where litter was highly prevalent. And they created some strategies from that. One of them was to get an extra bin put into one of the main park areas. Another one was to run a market where people could sell secondhand goods to hopefully prevent some things going to landfill. So we had some really good community partnerships with Family Life and Wallaroo Community House, as well as the Mornington Peninsula Shire. And we raised money for Kids Undercover as part of our market program. So a lot of the students actually have graduated that part of the project, but it's been really fantastic to see this year the relay baton's been passed on to the next group, and they're actually planning some more activities, and hopefully when restrictions end, we can make some of that happen, which would be fantastic. So it's a sustainable project, which has been really, really good. Now, we worked really closely with Rosie, so I think she's here if she wanted to add anything as well.
Sorry, do I have time? Just wanted to let you know that in Woolaroo, dumping of rubbish was an issue, and the local communities didn't have access to tip tickets that was held by the Department of Housing, and costing maybe $500,000 plus per year to get rid of illegal rubbish. So these young kids have provided advocacy in the community for people to have a clean living environment under the conventions, you know, to have the right to move, clean environment and to thrive in the community. So they've done really well. A lot of them suffer from anxiety and other concerns. And yeah, and they've done amazingly well. So yeah, thanks for that, Roni.
No, thanks, Rosie. And I think that's it from us.
Perfect. Thank you so much for presenting. We'll kind of just keep running through it as quick as we can because we have so much. So next will be Young Moms.
Hi, I'm back again, Rosie here. So I worked with a group of young mums from Hastings and mainly in the Woolaroo environment. And these mums were aged between 16 and 25. And what they highlighted was through our partnership with Peninsula Health, Youth Services, as well as Shire Maternal Child Health, that the young mums were facing a lot of stigma and shame in the community. And as a result, you know, they found it difficult to connect, and they would be isolated as well. So they highlighted the issues, and there was many from transportation to access to education and things, but they worked on 3 strategies that they would like to address. And this was bringing services together, and they devised a capacity building toolkit that kind of looks like a pamphlet with all the numbers and things, so that can have a sustainable outcome and pass this strategy on so they can have access to services. The other thing they devised was, you know, how they access services and the outcomes they received. So in terms of maternal child health and other things, they wanted to provide service outcomes. So they're working with maternal child health nurses to provide a continuous improvement survey. So when mums access the service, the outcomes are friendly. And the other outcome is to provide peer support in playgroups as well. So when young mums come into a playgroup, they've got champions in there to, but some of these strategies have been put on hold due to COVID as well. But it's really amazing because this project has provided gender equity and social inclusion as well, because there's a lot of mums who are having negative impact or access to services, but they're generating social outcomes for other people who will in return have positive outcomes, which is long lasting and ongoing. So thanks to Woolaroo House and Good Shepherd as well to be part of this project, so they can keep this project live and sustainable as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rosie.
Thank you.
Next, we will go on to Opera Buckley.
Hello. Yes, we put on an opera last year in Rosebud, and I'll tell you briefly something about it. I'm Anthony Ransom, active in Europe as a professional musician for 30 years till the year 2000. I was inspired by a visit to the 1803 Sorrento settlement on the Mornington Peninsula to compose and produce the opera Buckley. We wanted to highlight the history of the settlement and the fascinating story of our local hero, William Buckley, and find ways of reaching out to Indigenous culture through Buckley's story. His 32 years that he spent with the Wattarong people across Port Phillip, his courage and resilience, his mediation between black society and white in early Melbourne, and his significance for reconciliation. Carolyn Briggs, Boon Wurrung Elder, gave a moving welcome to country, and Brian Powell, Wattarong Elder, gave us his blessing. The opera, composed to a text by local historian Richard Cotter and staged and directed by David Lampard, was successfully presented in the Rosebud Memorial Hall on 26th and 27th of April 2019. Rosebud was host to a sold-out world premiere, financed also by grants and donations, with professional soloists and musicians and an amateur chorus and other people helping out as well from the community, of a unique opera on a local theme of great historic significance. I was strongly supported in mounting this project by the president of the Friends of the 1803 Settlement, Judy Walsh, who's here with us today. Thank you for joining us as well, Judy, there she is. And by the Rosebud Theatre Group, whose familiarity with the hall solved many production problems. The arts matter. Our entire history matters. The Mornington Peninsula Shire are aware of this and support the arts with creative community grants. A video of the opera is available as an educational aid at rdpv.com.au/specials. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anthony. Now I would like to invite Be the Change to present.
Hello all. I'm the default presenter for this, as the people involved in Be the Change are actually teaching at this moment. So I'll try and do my best to describe this absolutely wonderful theatre production by Rye Primary School. It was a production that reflected a whole range of, I guess, values that the school was trying to instill in the children and for the children to embrace. So it covered values, it covered empowerment, it covered community, and it also covered the environment. And in particular, it related to engagement with community and engagement with the environment. Its values included social justice, sense of fairness, caring for others, and it was just the most wonderful thing to not only see but to understand what was going on behind the scenes. So it resulted in many good things, including connection of the children, in particular the Student Representative Council, with community groups, and but in particular environmental groups. One group in particular was the Friends of Rye Foreshore, where the children sort of helped with some of the bush regeneration projects that we're involved in at the moment. But it was it involved the community in terms of the actual pre-production, where there were parents, grandparents, friends of the school, all helping to make costumes, to paint sets. Overall, it sent a very sort of gentle, educative message for people to think more carefully about how they relate within community, but also how they can also care for the environment. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now it'll be another Rye Primary for our emotional environmental mural.
This one, I'm not as familiar with this one as Be the Change, but I do know a bit about it. And I know that, again, it was a wonderful joint project with the Mornington Peninsula Shire. And it involved children who perhaps were a little more troubled than most. Not all, because it was also children who weren't troubled. But it involved painting a mural on the school grounds. And part of the process in painting the mural was getting children to sort of talk about their feelings. So instead of bottling them up, to actually sort of talk about how they were feeling on that day, perhaps things that may have happened. So it was a healing process as well. And the mural is just beautiful. It's like a rainbow. And the rainbow reflects the various sort of feelings through to, from despair to sort of absolute happiness. And I think the outcome, from what I understand, was just brilliant in terms of those children who were involved in doing it. And it's a wonderful strategy, I think, for getting close to children who would not normally talk to another adult, but could talk to their peers or talk to an art teacher or someone involved in developing the art, when that person actually becomes almost a child themselves, because the children don't see the person as a teacher or as an adult. They see that someone working alongside them, painting the violet part of a rainbow. So yes, it was wonderful. Rye Primary School is incredible.
I was here to speak about that also. So I'm the worker that ran that project. Have we still got time, or is that?
Yes, go ahead. You can continue.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Lauren. I'm a youth worker from Mornington Peninsula Shire, and I ran that project. So I was working closely with disadvantaged kids that were experiencing anxiety. I work with expressive therapies, and so they would express their emotions. One young student described coming to school like a wave of anxiety, like when a wave is going to crash on you, and that started this beautiful conversation about emotive images from the environment. And so that's where it all began in 2018. We built a real structure and a connection with the environment right there, and then that continued to be a conversation until we developed the imagery. And the imagery was beautifully put together by Ishka, who was a teacher's aide and an amazing artist from the school. I worked in close proximity with the kids the entire time. I was on every day that it was getting painted, and it took a very long time because of weather, but it was absolutely amazing. And it's really, the connections that it's created in the community have been pretty profound, with lots of people commenting and taking photos in front of it. Their school assemblies, while we've been on Zoom and remote, have all been taken place in front of this mural. So it's a connection thing. 2 kids, most of the kids have graduated now that were participating in that, and now returned to the school, and it's like a safe space. So it was a really exciting project, and it's going to be there for a long time. Quickly before I finish, not one piece of graffiti has been put on this image, because it's been owned by the community and the school and the past students and all the kids that have been involved in it. So for us, that is ridiculous, because it was absolutely getting covered in not the most lovely things. So yeah, cool. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you were able to hop on and present a little bit more about that. Next, we will have the Rye Pier Biodiversity Project.
That's me again. I'm sorry about that confusion there. But I did reinforce it was a great project. Just quickly, the Rye Pier Biodiversity Project grew out of the Mornington Peninsula Shire expanding the launching facilities for boats and jet skis at Rye. And there was a issue about the community and others wanted an environmental impact statement sort of carried out, but there was a refusal to do that, even though underneath the Rye Pier is an absolute marine wonderland. So while we lost that in terms of the Shire recognising the importance of the marine ecosystem underneath the pier, we decided that because we couldn't actually prove in the quantitative way what was there, that we'd undertake our own project to sort of document what was under the pier. And with the help of divers and people like Josie Jones and Farm Chaco, who's a marine scientist from the St Kilda Eco Centre, we sort of organised this, what we called an audit. And that audit demonstrated quite clearly that underneath Rye Pier was a total marine wonderland. When we did a follow-up audit that was after the construction of what is effectively becoming a jet ski ramp, there was total devastation of the marine life under the pier. So seahorses, other sort of marine life had just virtually disappeared. It was like a desert, and with sand build-up, it was really quite devastating. But out of that, when we were documenting this, out of all that sort of sadness, if you like, and the diving industry also disappeared, something quite good came out of it, because part of what we did was to, at the suggestion of the Victorian Parks Association, was to use an international database called iNaturalist. So we created, and particularly FARM created, this database on iNaturalist, where we could actually put up photographs of what was under Rye Pier. And this meant that it has now become a resource for other divers and other people to identify what they might see under the pier and to add to that database. So we now have about 138 species that have been identified under Rye Pier, and some of them are sort of quite rare that you don't see sort of very often. So it is proving to be an excellent resource, and particularly for new divers who may not know what particular species are, they can use it as a visual reference. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle. Next, I would like to invite Our Waste, Our Place, Our Actions to present.
Hi everyone, that's me. I'm Geraldine. So I just organised my notes here. Okay, so we're really grateful to have had funding from the Mornington Peninsula Shire for a grant that we put forward through Mornington U3A and Monash University, and then we extended it out to the wonderful Mornington Park Primary School. And with me today is Kathleen Lord from Mornington Park Primary School and Libby Wilson from U3A. So I think from the outset, it's important to say that the power of our project was that it was really truly intergenerational, and we aimed to feature the shared wisdoms of every generation that worked into it. And these wisdoms came out through people's understandings of waste, environment, wildlife, and each other. And so our project developed a roadmap, a way to work intergenerationally. So we worked with 60+ pre-service teachers who are going out to become early childhood and primary teachers in our region. And we worked with 30+ children from the school and also 30+ seniors from the U3A. And we hosted a series of events across our institutions so that we would break down stereotypes to get to know each other in the process. And these events featured lots of noisy, wonderful conversations and events through art. So our first event was hosted at Monash University, where participants all brought their different waste from their generations, and we upcycled the waste together. And it brought up new ideas about and discussions about upcycling, recycling, life cycle thinking, etc. That was followed up by trying to explore the wildlife in our region and how our waste behaviour affects the wildlife in our region. And so then we visited Mornington U3A, and we, as a group, we made talismans of local animals that we love and the waste that we might be, tossing away, and the connection between our behaviours, the wildlife, the place that we live, etc. And so what we were aiming for here was this idea of being aware of that interconnection between waste, ourselves, humans and non-humans, and how we can think of community action actually as a human and a non-human action. And so I suppose the impact of our project was that it cut down on a lot of stereotypes. We're researching the project still at the moment. We made a video, and on YouTube it's had 2.5 thousand hits. We've put posters up on the internet and they've been looked at by about 1,000 people. And what's great is that our pre-service teachers have had this experience, and so they can now go on and model this kind of project with, schools and early childhood centres within the region. The children wrote a letter to their local shopping mall suggesting strategies for single-use plastic and packaging, and there was sort of an agentic kind of output there. It's also led to an invitation to write a chapter in a book on inventive ways to work with community projects where we consider community as both human and animal and waste, and our behaviours all affecting each other through a system of behaviours. So all up, I think that we could say that our project kind of re-envisioned ways that we could work with waste in schools and early childhood centres and work across intergenerations. And also it was a flourishing project. There was lots and lots of outputs, creative outputs, and it was joyful. And I suppose it has an ongoingness to it in that the resources that we've made are now available for the school and the U3A. They're on the internet and they continue to be used with our future and current pre-service teachers. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to invite World Suicide Prevention Day Walk.
I can talk to that one. So I'm Andrew, I'm from the Mornington Peninsula Shire Youth Services, and we worked in partnership with Chasing Change, which is a local suicide prevention network. And every year in September is National Suicide Prevention Day, and we facilitated a walk in Mornington at the bottom of Main Street, the park there, just to commemorate and I guess remember people in our community that had died by suicide. So this event was a fantastic opportunity for community just to come together, share stories, support each other. For those that needed to seek support, they could do so. At the end of the walk, it was just a really nice gradual walk around the park. We invited everyone to tie a ribbon onto the front of there's a chain that links the front of the park, just to commemorate or acknowledge a loved one. And the messages of hope, comfort and support that arose through that event have continued on. And this year the event will unfortunately not be proceeding in its current form, will be going online, again encouraging community to come together and connect and share those stories just to support each other through some really difficult times that our community experiences when there's a loss by suicide. So a really, really fantastic event and a really great demonstration of partnership between all the services that took part in that event.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It sounds amazing what you're doing with the community. Next, I'd like to invite Proud on the Peninsula.
Hello, everyone. That's me. It's great to see so many familiar faces in the community. My name's Matt. I'm from the Youth Services team at the Mornington Peninsula Shire, and we ran Proud on the Peninsula, which is an art exhibition for LGBTIQA+ young people. So I run the Peninsula Pride group, which is in partnership with Headspace, and it's a social support group for young LGBTIQA+ people. And they were just sick of going up to Melbourne to go to events and things like that. So art exhibitions, dance parties and things like that. There was nothing happening on the Mornington Peninsula. So we decided to get together and create this art exhibition. So we ran it at the Oak Hill Art Gallery in Mornington, and we had a big opening, and it ran for a month, the whole exhibition, and it was just the best time. It was amazing. The young people really got to have fun and just experience how supportive their community can be. And from that, we've looked at we're going to be doing events like that throughout the next few years. This year's been a bit of a write-off due to everything that's happening with COVID, which is a shame, but looking at planning to do more in the next following years. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Matt. Next, I would like to invite Officers for Protection of Local Environment. And if someone's not here for that one, we can go ahead and skip over it.
That would have been Peter O'Brien, Emma, and he may not be on.
Okay.
He may be working.
Perfect. We'll just go ahead and skip over, and if we see him pop on, we can go back to it. Then we'll go ahead and go to Greens Bush to Arthur's Seat via link.
Hi everyone, my name's Chantal Kelly. I'm the project coordinator who's been delivering the Greens Bush to Arthur's Seat via link on behalf of the Mornington Peninsula Landcare Network. GB2AS, I'll shorten it because it's quite a mouthful, is a project that was funded by the Port Phillip and Western Port Catchment Management Authority. And the reason for this project was to address an issue of biodiversity decline, which is a result of land fragmentation. So sadly on the peninsula, we've had about 80% of native vegetation cleared since European settlement. That's been to make way for farms and for housing. So GB2AS set out to try and reconnect these fragmented pockets of remnant vegetation, and the two largest remaining core patches, which are Greens Bush, Mornington Peninsula National Park, and Arthur Seat State Park. So the way the project went around doing this was engaging private landholders in the project area, and we managed to sign on 26 enthusiastic landholders to take part in the project. And through the course of the project, we have actually installed 24,000 Indigenous endemic plants on property where plants wouldn't have regenerated on their own. We were able to do this with the involvement of around 700 volunteers. These volunteers were from the community and participated during community-based planting events, and we've also been partnering with local schools and other community groups such as Scouts and Guides to install all these Indigenous trees and shrubs to restore some of that landscape connectivity. In doing so, our newly growing forest of trees is actually capturing around 2,000 tonnes of carbon from the atmosphere, which is amazing, especially with climate change being an increasing challenge for all of us. And another way we've been addressing improving biodiversity in the project area has been through weed control. So we've been removing habitat changing weeds in the project area on private property, and we've managed to remove around 50 hectares or improve 50 hectares of remnant vegetation on private property. So just to put that in perspective, that's around 93 football fields worth of environmental weeds controlled. Another thing that we've been doing is, while we're waiting for our forest of trees to actually take hold and establish, it takes about 100 years for a tree to form natural hollows. So for those species that are dependent on tree hollows, we've actually installed some nest boxes to give them somewhere to breed in the interim. So yeah, so we have actually been really happy to see some sugar gliders move into a nest box in the centre of the BioLink. That's been really cute to watch. And another really exciting thing that we've seen happen is that the endangered or threatened Latham snipe has migrated all the way from Japan and settled on one of our BioLink properties that has been revegetated and also had some weed control done on it. So they've seen what we've done and have appreciated it and have taken rest there before they return back to Japan. Yeah, I think that's succinctly what we've been doing.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, Chantel. Next, I would like to invite Ballerine Village Common. I know I pronounced that extremely wrong.
Hi, I think that's Balnarring Village Common. I think that might be me, and Tom Haynes Sutherland will just add something at the end. The creation of the Civic Court Reserve was a significant project for Balnarring, with $640,000 invested in the open space. The project was a collaboration between the state government with a contribution of $290,000 through the Growing Suburbs Fund. The Shire proudly provided $300,000 in funding and $50,000 contribution from Bendigo Bank. The Balnarring Village Common Community Committee worked alongside the Shire in creating a space for all to enjoy. The key elements that were created included a performance space with a stage and amphitheatre for local musicians, ensuring the protection and enhancement of existing native grasslands, the creation of an Indigenous bush foods garden, the creation of natural swales to harvest water on site and improve drainage, nature-based play elements for the neighbouring kinder children and wider community to enjoy, along with picnic facilities and pathways. The park was opened on Saturday the 27th of April 2019 and was celebrated with a good Aussie barbecue run by the Lions Club and plantings by the Balnarring community, who are clearly not afraid to get their hands dirty. Tom, over to you.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I suppose I just wanted to add that it was fantastic to get such a significant amount of investment from a few different parties into a facility open for the general community. So just for anybody to use, you don't have to be a member of a club, and there's, you know, really something there for everybody, but in real cohesion with the existing remnant vegetation that was at the site, and really building on that and taking into account its surrounding environment. So it was such a collaborative project with the Balnarring Village Common Community Group in working on the designs with the landscape architects that were involved and all that sort of stuff. It was really fantastic to be a part of.
Perfect. Thank you so much to you both for sharing with us. Next, I will invite the Sea is Our Best Friend to present.
Hi, Emma. I'm wondering whether it would be okay if perhaps Lucy, who is the other member from our school, to present her part first. Our kind of, yeah. Does that wreck up the schedule too much?
Nope, you're all set. You can go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Sorry, Lucy, to throw you in there.
Hi, everyone. How do we get it on that screen so we can see each other? I don't know. Okay. All right. Yeah, so we're going to be presenting, first of all, we've got 2 projects entered, and the first one we're going to talk about is our Indigenous Culture and Perspectives program that we've been running here at St Joseph's this year. So I'm going to hand over to Julie, who's just going to do a quick acknowledgement to country.
I'd just like to acknowledge the Bunurong people on this land that we're actually working from and living on, and thank the elders past, present and the emerging elders for looking after our land so beautifully for the years all gone past, thousands of years. Anyway, yeah,
great.
So talk about IC first.
What's that?
The IC first, because that's what they want.
Sure. So yeah, at St Joe's, we've always had a strong focus on Indigenous culture and perspectives, and are lucky enough to have Julie as our teacher and expert leading this team. We've also had a long history of teaching organic gardening and cooking through our kitchen garden program. But this year, the school decided to trial a program that has combined the 3 subjects into an Indigenous, permaculture and food science program. This has been running for our Prep 1-2s in a weekly session, and it's been a great success. In the times that we've actually been at school, we've obviously had a lot of disruption with COVID. So Julie and Matt, who's our chef, have worked together to design a cooking program that has allowed students to try bush tucker foods with recipes such as wattle seed tea, lemon myrtle damper and warrigal greens omelette, all being tried in the kitchen, and hopefully we can get back in there next term to try some more interesting new flavours. And in the garden, the students have learnt about the 6 Southeast Bunurong seasons and started to learn and explore Indigenous bush tucker plants. So we've introduced them to the lemon myrtle plant, which we've obviously used in the kitchen, and the wattle, coastal wattle and black wattle and some of the other Indigenous species we have around. And we've also got warrigal greens growing here at school, so we've introduced them to them. And they've also helped us to redesign and create a new meeting place we've got a big bush area at school that was full of weeds, so they helped us clear that out, and we've redesigned all of that and created a lovely sort of space with lots of logs for them to sit around. And we've had a big planting day with them where we planted up the whole area with new Indigenous plants. We've also taught them about, sorry about that, that's recess. How to have a yarn using a yarn stick at the meeting place and communicate through song. So every time we go out, they sing the Bunjil is a Spirit song just to reconnect them through song. So COVID has obviously prevented us from doing much at school over the last couple of terms, but Julie has kept the program alive with lots of activities, Indigenous and permaculture activities online. I'm going to hand over to Julie because she also runs the program from grade 3 to 6 as a more senior program, so you can fill them in on that.
Very quickly, we've started off with just the Prep 1-2s, and we've actually moved it into the 3 to 6 area as well. And there's been, our focus was mostly on truth telling through an Indigenous, through the Indigenous eyes, and also a sustainability lens. So the start of the year was, because of the bushfires, was a great introduction to actually talk about fire stick management, and because the Indigenous studies is quite lateral and it's more about talking about things, we've actually created this beautiful space for Aboriginal people to actually feel like they can come out and actually be proud of the fact that they're Aboriginal. So, and I think that's been the biggest plus so far. And it's continuing on. So thank you. Yep. Is there anything else?
I think that's it. Yeah. Well, yep. And yeah, that feeds really well into the Seed is Our Best Friend program, which Jess will now talk about. So, yeah.
Over to you, Jess.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Jules. I'm coming from Bunurong country too, so I just like to pay my respect to the traditional custodians of the land and the sea, which ties into telling you guys about the program, which is in its 2nd year. So last year we ran a very successful program that connects the students to Western Port Bay. So our school is in Crib Point. In Martin Street, we are about 2 k's from Woolies Beach Reserve. So we work in partnership with the Foreshore Committee there and Ranger James. And those kind of community relationships are really a key component to the success of this program. What it looks like in terms of a practical kind of thing. Last year we were able to have the kids on board, and they're much better at kind of talking about what happens as opposed to us. But essentially every Wednesday we have the Seed is Our Best Friend as a learning program. Every 2nd week we walk down to the beach, so that we take them on a 2k walk, which is just gorgeous. And we really kind of build on all of the great work that's been happening in Lucy and Julie's program. Those children have that exposure to the Indigenous learnings, and then this year we've really adapted that lens in this program with a deep focus on embedding First Peoples perspective, but in that kind of very visceral and on-site experience of being on the bay. As I mentioned, we have kind of the community partnerships that make this program work really well. They include working really closely with the Western Port Biosphere. So this year we have partnered with artist Kate Gorringe-Smith to develop some beautiful works on some of our migratory birds. So that's been work that we've been able to do in lieu of not being able to visit the bay and do the walks. We've been able to do that through the online platform, which is good. It keeps the learning alive. We also partner with Parks Vic, BirdLife Australia, local ecologists, and the big project that we're working on this year is co-creating a community pamphlet with the Foreshore of Committee Management down at Woolies Foreshore for a government-funded project where the kids are going to provide their lens on why that foreshore is just such a fantastic resource that we all need to preserve and enjoy. Just quickly, we also have within this cohort of our 60 3-4, so it's the middle years that are engaged in this program. In that group of 60, we have a group of 10 who are mangrove warriors. They're involved with growing mangroves. That's a part that I lead. And so the site that we visit, we're fortunate enough to have a stand of mangroves there. So we can explore some fantastic kids teaching kids programs where we go and monitor our mangroves and collect seeds and grow them in partnership with Western Port Seagrass Association. I'm sure I've missed something because 2 minutes is a lot and I'm weirdly nervous, but I think that's it. Have I missed anything, Lucy or Jules? No. Anyway, thanks. It's been so great to hear all of your programs, and I really want to thank you, Emma, for keeping this alive in such unusual times. Thanks all.
So much. Beautiful. So next we will have the Galapipoli, I'm going to pronounce it really wrong, room to present. Hopefully.
Yeah, my name is Max. It's the Gallipoli room in our Maritime Museum at Crib Point. Members have built this fantastic exhibit. It features a section of the submarine AE2, one of two Australia's first submarines. It's a little known story of the part that AE2 played in the Gallipoli campaign. When the ships, the troops were getting ashore, they needed some help from vessels to ward off the Turkish gunboats. And so it was decided that they actually had to get some ships through the Dardanelles and put up this screen. The British and French tried, and they lost two battleships, and two British battleships and one French battleship to mines. So it was then decided that the Australian submarine would attempt to get through the Dardanelles, which was heavily mined and covered by Turkish forts along the length of the coast. It was such a hazardous journey that they ran aground several times. They got tangled up in mines and that, and they eventually got through to through the Dardanelles off the Gallipoli coast. And they sighted a vessel and fired a torpedo, but a Turkish gunboat was bearing down on them and they had to dive. During the dive, they lost trim and the submarine went to the surface, and unfortunately the Turkish gunboat was nearby and put a shot into her, and she was so severely damaged it had to be scuttled. The crew were interned in Turkey for the duration of the war, and some died during that duration. No one died when the vessel was abandoned, but after the war they were repatriated back to Australia. And one of the crew, Thompson, who was the signalman, came to the HMAS Cerberus, and he eventually left the Navy, paid off, and started a business locally with a bus. And during his time with the bus, he came into Hastings, and unfortunately he rolled the bus over and was killed. And his grave is actually in the Hastings Cemetery. While we were doing this research, I discovered a family connection, which was his widow actually married my grandfather's brother, which was quite amazing. And they adopted a child that had polio, and I knew this Ronnie all my life, and I didn't know where he fitted into the family. But the feature of the Gallipoli show is the section that was built by members of the Maritime Centre, and we also created in our media suite a 10-minute video of the history of AE2 and the action. And quite a few, not many years ago, the wreck was discovered, and they were thinking of raising it, but there came to a bit of a dispute. Who did it belong to now? Did it belong to Turkey or did it belong to Australia? And 4 years ago, they did another survey of the vessel, and they decided that it was so badly deteriorated that it wasn't worth bringing up. But one of the amazing things is the Sea of Marmara, where the vessel lies, there is very low salinity. So the vessel internally is very, very well preserved, and they put a camera into the vessel, and there was Thompson's locker, and his deck shoes could be clearly seen sitting in his locker. So it's quite an amazing display, and it highlights such a little known action, and the response from the public has been really enormous. So it's a major feature of our museum. I think that about sums it up.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Max. Next, we will invite Wallaroo Community House Community Garden to present.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see so many of you and to hear so many wonderful ventures that are happening. I'm Melissa Rigby. I'm from the Good Shepherd Community House at Wallaroo. I say every time I get the opportunity that it's such a privilege and an honour to be able to do what we do. And it's wonderful that we've done that in a way that's in collaboration with so many people that are important in that sense of community. So to talk about the Wallaroo Community Garden, I'm going to invite our volunteer Chris Standing to do that. So Chris, if you're there, if you can unmute and go ahead, thank you.
Hang on. I've unmuted, but I haven't.
So we can hear you, Chris, and we can see you fine. And for everybody, this is Chris's very first official Zoom. So I wish him very well. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. G'day, I'm Chris. Yeah, I'm a volunteer at the Wallaroo Community House Garden down there. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to be sustainable with very little of anything. So we recycle as much as we possibly can. We're recycling all of our timber to make garden beds, which is working out to be a very cheap and economical way of doing it. Also, we're using old timber to make what we call hugelkultur garden beds. And what that means is that 3/4 of the way we fill our big garden beds up with old timber, old logs, tree stumps, any of that sort of rubbish and everything. And then that helps to give us a wicking bed, more or less, in the bottom of our garden bed, which gives us a lot more moisture to retain into the garden bed, as well as it also helps to give us bacteria, you know, fungi, bugs, everything. So we're trying to make a garden that'll virtually run itself. We were just in the process of getting everything up and running when, unfortunately, this virus hit us and it slowed us right down. But as soon as that's all over, we hope to get right back into it again and get the kindergarten kids involved in it much, much more than what they have been, and start growing our own food for the children down there, to grow it, to look after it, and then to harvest it and eat it. That's about all I've got to say about it. Thank you very much for that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next, I'm going to invite Soups for Schools to present.
Unmute. Okay, hi, good morning. I have a little summary of Soup in School so that I don't miss anything for you, so I'm just going to hit that a little bit hard. Soup in Schools started in 2016, operating from the Hastings Community House. We identified a lack of lunches being provided at some of the schools across Western Port, and we have access to a really large contingent of OzHarvest food on a weekly basis. So we put together a program starting with Cribworth Primary School, who put their hands up first, to trial a 3-course hot lunch cooked by volunteers at the school site for any children who wanted to come up and attend the canteen and grab the food. Huge response straight off the bat. So we started doing about 130 servings a week there, and post-COVID we hadn't stopped. So 40 weeks a year we provide the lunch. Other schools started to jump on in with their hands up, so we had to expand the program. So we currently cook for 3 schools across 2 sites on a weekly basis during the terms. Up until March, we were providing 440 servings a week. of hot lunch, fruit, bread. This obviously required a little bit more than just us and the crew. So we have 16 volunteers providing 71 hours a week directly connected to the community house on this project. We have a business sponsor. The local family medical centre contacted us and provided us with a cash grant per year for pantry items to keep this going for the community's kids. We've also been really well supported by the Reclaimed Food Services, Second Bite and Oz Harvest, and Morn Pen Shire has always been right behind us with anything we need. A little bit of inconsistency at the start with some of the things that kids will eat and that you can prepare in that large quantities and get down there. So current menu looks like this: pasta and veggie bake, roast meat sandwiches, spaghetti bowl, and a bread and fruit component. We were lucky enough last year to have Advanced Community College provide us with some of their cooking students on a Friday, and they were baking little mini treats for the kids as well. So they were getting little apricot balls, little this and that while we had them there as well. So there's opportunity there for people to come in and help us out on the program to make it bigger. Melissa at Wallaroo has also jumped on board. She's grabbed the Wallaroo contingent cook for us and now provides it out of their centre once a week. So that's another school we passed on, and then we grabbed Bitten Primary. Our retention rates on the Thursdays that we provide the lunch increased instantly for those kids whose parents were on income support. They started turning up, the school started putting their hands up and saying, just, we need you there. Since COVID, all we've done is continue to receive our food supply and store it. We have a 960 litre freezer. We've got all the kids' stuff put aside in there. So as soon as we're allowed back in, we'll start providing them with lunches. The volunteers are working on food hampers for the community during this time, so I'm keeping them engaged. And I must admit, we've really had no hiccups from 2016 to now with this program. It's really supported and well utilised, and I have to thank the volunteers. They do absolutely everything in it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Next, we will go to the Wallaroo Youth Art Project.
Good morning, I'm Helen from Western Port Secondary. At 10 a.m. start, the coffee machine in the office is turned on. Collingwood was hammered by Melbourne, and I don't know how to get rid of the double chin, but I promise I'll keep it in the 2 minutes. To deliver the Wallaroo Art Project, the funding was successfully secured through the Sustainable Communities Grant. The aim of the art project was to engage disengaged youth, to improve the environment and reduce the antisocial behaviour in a meaningful and purposeful way. With consultation with the Wallaroo Community Action Group and supported by the Good Shepherd Community House, the art project was primarily led and coordinated by our Western Port Secondary College outreach education students, who are students that have disengaged from mainstream education, and we encourage them to participate and re-engage through way of community projects. The Wallaroo Reserve was chosen because the issues with graffiti, it was a major issue, and damage throughout the park. With the support from Miles, who's an educational mentor here at Western Port, the group of students budgeted, planned, purchased and delivered materials to various student groups. They then coordinated the erection of the art boards by the Western Port SBAT students. So the project was totally owned by the students, from planning through to installation. The local business support was given by Bunnings and Coates Hire, which was fantastic. And at the end, the group planned a community barbecue at the conclusion of the project, which went ahead despite it being pouring rain. That was fantastic. Initially, there were 5 graffiti boards which were approved to be installed at the back of the park, and Miles worked with students after school hours in an educational way. And then there were 24 boards which were 1.8 by 0.6 metres. That means big. that were installed, and then they had native planting put around them. The artwork's been positioned to protect, positioned and protected to ensure that it's going to be there for the next 20 years plus. Overall, I think we would have had about 200 students participating from the local primaries, kinder, youth support, advanced college, our Western Port art students, integration students, as well as our hands-on learning and the SBAT students. The project was successful. It brought students together with adults who work cohesively, and it certainly made it a talking point in the community. And it's something to be proud of. And ultimately, it's virtually eradicated the graffiti in the park. And that provides a strong evidence base that the initiative was really successful. The project is looking towards moving into a second phase. Trish from the Shire will organise the money for that, I'm sure, if Trish is listening. And we hope to install more boards and work with the youth over the next 12 months. So if Trish has anything to add, or Mel, there was certainly great support throughout the project. That's it.
Helen,
Thanks,
I just want to
Helen.
say one thing and quickly get in before you, Tricia.
Okay.
Wanting to all of you come down, put into series 6 Wallaroo Place in Hastings. Come down and have a look. It's 3 kilometres of beautiful artwork. So do come out and have a look. And Tricia, I'll just hand back to you.
Okay, thank you for that very technical information, Helen, at 1.3 metres. But we had a lot of challenges with the polls, so it was wonderful to see that. And I really just want to say it's fantastic to see the Shire involved in all of these projects and supporting our community groups. And as just to reiterate what Gary said before, nothing happens without our volunteers, including our services and those projects that happen in the broader community. And sometimes that's people volunteering and stepping outside their roles. But certainly our community houses don't run without that support from our volunteers. So it was a great community project that really brought the community together with all those stakeholders. So that's magic when it happens. And we managed to work with the youth the entire way through. So they actually created a sense of belonging and they own it. And Wallaroo Reserve's like their own backyard. But can't do it without Western Port Secondary College and Good Shepherd Community House. So it's always a partnership approach. So thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you, ladies. Next, we will have Pouches for Wildlife to present.
Sorry, that's me. Hello, everyone. I'm a bit croaky. I'm Gail from Mornington Peninsula Libraries. So my project was a bit spontaneous. At the height of the bushfires, I saw a call out for animal pouches. And I thought, oh, we could use our library branches to help with that. So I did a bit of research and I found some patterns that the animal rescue groups required. They're quite specific about what they wanted. So I put them up on our library website and did a call out on our Facebook group. Sorry, excuse me. Over the weekend, so that was
Oh, you're muted again.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, it went a bit viral. So over the next couple of weeks, we were inundated from the community with pouches. So many. We ended up with about 7,000 items. We had to recruit a team for quality control to make sure they were up to the standards that were required. And we used some of the community to do that as well. And then we ran a community sewing group to make 3D animal pouches, which were very specific and a little bit more difficult to make for the larger animals, which the animal groups were calling out for. So we ended up with all these absolutely amazing pouches. They were really beautiful. People reused lots of fabric that they had at home, old sheets and pillowcases and upcycled them into these amazing pouches. We also ended up with a lot of nests, which they were also calling out for, that for smaller animals. We ended up with bat wraps, towels, blankets, all sorts of things. We redistributed everything we received through two very large animal co-ops who distribute that all over Victoria and New South Wales at the time. We also distributed to some local animal rescue groups who were able to use some of the items, and also to the RSPCA. So we recycled everything that we had. We were overwhelmed with the amount of pouches that came in. We didn't expect it to be so big. But we successfully got everything back out into the community, so we were really happy. So that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Next, I'll invite ICICare Marine Ambassadors to present.
Hello, everybody. My name's Mandy. I'm from the Dolphin Research Institute. And our program has been running now for 20 years, and it's designed primarily as a leadership program. So we work with about 100 primary schools across the whole region, and almost a quarter of those are based in the Mornington Peninsula, and we're based in Hastings ourselves. And this program is designed to give the student leaders around grade 5, 6, the skills and the confidence to be able to advocate for the marine environment in particular. And the way that we do this is that we run a series of workshops normally, obviously, not during COVID. So we take them out. The first thing that we do is we actually take them snorkeling out onto into the marine environment with some of our local iconic species like the seals, the dolphins and the sea dragons. The idea is to not just push them out of their comfort zone, but also experience the marine environment that they're going to be advocating for. And then throughout the year, there are more workshops. And this year, actually, due to COVID, we've introduced online catch-ups with them to give them as many tools as possible and as much knowledge as possible so that they can speak for human impact, basically, around litter and pollution, climate change, environmental justice, and take all their learnings back into their school community to then basically change their school culture to create as little impact as possible on the marine environment for the future. It's a very exciting project. I'm very proud to be a part of it. We have probably around 550 students that go through this program every year now. And over the years, that's been around about 7,000 students. And I'm really happy to say that we have a number of partners that support us, and Mornington Peninsula Shire, I think that's a bit of a theme this morning, which is amazing, have been supporting this program since 2013. And we have a number of other council partners in Kingston, City of Casey, Greater Dandenong, and also the Catholic Education in Melbourne help to support this program, along with all our wonderful donors and contributors, to keep this program running, because we want to stay with the schools. We want to be there every year, and we introduce them to their Indigenous culture through the amazing work of Lionel Louch that many of you know, and also Jean Stewart up in Melbourne. And also just what they can do, looking to the behaviour changes that we all need to do, but we all know how persuasive children can be. So we find that they're a very great tool to change the older generation's behaviour, their parents, their grandparents, their neighbours, and that kind of thing, to make their future, because it is what we're sort of trying to really promote, is that it's about the future that they will inherit. It's not our future anymore. It's what the kind of world that they're going to inherit, and we want them to take ownership of that and really, you know, push for a better world. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the program. We're just hitting our 20th year. Thank you for the opportunity, and you know, it's really humbling to be around so many amazing projects. I think the judges have had a very, very difficult time.
Yes, they have, because I sat in every judging call. I don't know how they did it. Perfect. So next we will invite up Hastings Streetscape Renewal.
Hi, thank you, Emma. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Emma, and Keep Victoria Beautiful team. My name is Darren Simnett. I am a project manager with the Shire's Project Delivery Unit and presenting on behalf of the project team. The Hastings Streetscape Renewal was submitted into the category of social wellbeing. The Hastings Streetscape project is a transformative public realm upgrade of the existing streetscape of High Street in Hastings. The project objectives were to improve and promote the township and to provide a stronger sense of identity, place and character. The design has primarily been driven by a number of adopted master plans and has heavily involved the input of the local community and the Western Port Chamber of Commerce and Industry, instilling a sense of civic pride and ownership over the project. The project provides a much needed refresh to the dated streetscape to encourage the public to spend longer within the town centre and to promote commercial activity for the precinct and provide better social connections amongst the community. The streetscape has created opportunities for the public to gather in key places throughout the township with the inclusion of parklets, nodal points along the High Street commercial strip. Further to the works, the widening of the footpath along both sides of High Street is to provide for an increased trade opportunities and markets. As well as the streetscape element for the project, we have additionally provided new public toilet amenities in King Street, which include a new changing places cubicle for special needs care. Feedback from the Western Port Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the broader community has been fantastic. The project has led to a more engaged community, providing an increased sense of ownership, place and social wellbeing, as well as providing improvements to the public safety amenity for all users. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren. I know you guys also had the streetscape renewal, the O'Toole Walk in Fisherman's Lane. Do you want to talk about that as well?
I think James wanted to have a chat about the laneways. I think James, did you want to present, James?
Yeah, I'll run through that one. Thanks, Darren.
Great, no worries.
So yeah, as part of the Hastings project, we are also upgrading a lot of the laneways through the township. So each of the laneways have a theme. We did a master plan a few years ago, and each of the themes run around stories around the town. You know, the industrial history of Hastings, the fishing history. And so the first two laneways we did, the first one was the fishing history of Hastings. We worked with the Historical Society and upgraded the laneway. We did new lighting, landscaping, seating, and we told the sort of fishing history through information plaques on the ground, which we worked with the Historical Society on. And the other laneway we did was the O'Toole laneway, which is dedicated to Dermot O'Toole. That's a really tragic story. He was sadly killed. He ran a jewellery store in Hastings, and he was a much-loved community member. And he had a laneway dedicated to him, but it was probably a bit tired. And we worked with the family and sort of reimagined the laneway. The family's from Ireland, so we you know, tried to infuse as much of that history into the laneway as we could, with you know, using Indigenous plants to Ireland. We used you know, rocks and I suppose shamrocks and a whole heap of things. And then we put out a design competition for a mural, working with the family to design a mural that really tells their story on the wall, and it was really well received. So it was it was a big project to try and sort of and an emotional one, working with the family, but we got a really good outcome, and people really love the space. So yeah, it's a good project.
Okay, thank you so much, James. And next I have Hastings Fish Shed.
Hello. Welcome. A little bit different to last time. I think we did it in person at Horsham I think many years ago. So that was when we initially started Western Port Tourism in the fish shed on the Hastings Jetty. So we're a not-for-profit community organisation, and we have an executive committee that oversees the Visitor Information Centre. And we've got approximately 20 active volunteers who aren't terribly active at the moment, but are dying to get back into the fish shed. So the idea was that tourism wasn't seen to be a big, I suppose, priority in Hastings at the time when we started 7 years ago. And we thought, no, we're the gateway to the entry to Western Port. And the feeder going through to across the Mornington Peninsula through to Queenscliff and that side, and then a feeder back out to Gippsland and the Yarra Valley. So we have a lot of people come through the fish shed. We were conscious that our volunteers, perhaps if they're not well or able to come in, the fish shed wouldn't be open to give tourists and visitors information on what to see and do. So our thought was about 4 years ago was to develop a history and information board to be placed on the external side of the shed for people when we weren't open, were still able to get information. So that's it there. So I say 4 years because it was a massive project. We thought, oh yes, we'll just get the artwork done, contact the Historical Society to help us with the information on the history of the fish shed and the area. And then we worked with Mornington Peninsula Tourism to guide and assist us with places to see and do across the peninsula, as well as Western Port with our beautiful Warringini wetland. And all was going well, except we have a heritage overlay on our fish shed. So we ran into problems there with trying to get approval to have the information board erected. So we, through the very involved process of coastal and heritage overlays, Mornington Peninsula Tourism and the Shire helped work through those permits, and eventually we got approval to have the boards to be erected. The beauty of it was not realising that a pandemic was going to hit us and we wouldn't be open. It's been wonderful because in effect, it means that whilst we're not able to personally help and assist and guide people, the board is very informative. So if people pull up at the pier, they get out, they walk up to the information board, and it'll give them pretty much the information they need. So it sends them through to the virtual websites. It gives a map of the peninsula so they can see where they presently are and where they need to go to, and gives them a lot of hints to actually see things that they may not be aware of. Mushroom Reef has been a huge interest to people, which is down in Flinders. They didn't know about it. The Warringini Wetland Walk, they had no idea that we had the most southern mangroves in Australia. So it's been a learning process for locals and their families, but people also visiting. So we've been very proud of the project, and we've all been very excited the fact of having the partnership with Parks Victoria and Mornington Peninsula Shire and Mornington Peninsula Tourism and ourselves to be able to fund it and get it up. And then we've also done a tear-off map of the actual board as you see it, and we've passed those out to the various information centres across the peninsula and Frankston to allow them to give them out to direct them back to Hastings fish shed. So that's basically the nuts of our project, and it's been great. So another way to promote the area and tourism, and hopefully we'll be back into tourism again soon and have the doors reopened. So like most of you out there with your projects too. So thank you today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'll go ahead and invite Wrap for Wrap up.
Hello, thank you so much, Emma. I'm Kayla. I'm the Indigenous Inclusions Officer at the Mornington Peninsula Shire. I'd just like to acknowledge the Bunurong Boonwurrung peoples on whose land that I am. So the Wrap for Wrap project began as part of the Reconciliation Action Plan development. We've got a committee which works with what we would like to highlight as being embedded into every aspect of the council workings. And so from there, we decided that we needed to consult with the young people and get the voices of the young Indigenous kids and their allies. So the Warringini team and the youth services team started reaching out to schools, and we got 6 schools on board. We had a high school write a bunch of lyrics, really beautiful lyrics, things like "Don't Keep History a Mystery," and they developed the lyrics to a song. And so from there, we got 5 primary schools involved in creating a music video clip. So what they were doing was sharing their voices in a traditional kind of Aboriginal way to share information, which is verbally and through music and through dance. So it was really cool to be able to reconnect into that kind of traditional sense of voicing some events and feelings, and so that was really great. From there, we wanted to have a big online in-person event, with smoking ceremony and with all the families involved. But because of COVID, we needed to bring it online. So we had an online event where our mayor talked. We had Lionel from Living Culture share some information with the young ones, and we also viewed the rap video that the young ones created. It's had 4,700 views currently, and it's been shared 63 times, which is pretty good for a council Facebook video. So yeah, it was a really cool program. Loz, did you want to add anything to that?
Hi, me again. So yeah, I commenced the program, and then beautiful Kayla came on board. So it was a wonderful opportunity to introduce her to an already established network. The high school students were in exams when the recording was happening, so it worked beautifully to have the young kids from the local primary schools involved. Yeah, picking them all up on a bus, having a professional crew run it all. It was amazing. And if you've got an opportunity to have a little look at it, it's a really great video clip, and it really encapsulates our amazing peninsula and some brilliant imagery, and just the cuteness is ridiculous. But yeah, thank you so much, and it was so good to work with Kayla. Really, really good.
Thank you so much, ladies, for your time. Next, we will have Wastewise Peninsula present.
Wow, I am so blown away by everyone's project. Absolutely amazing to listen to everyone. I'm Beata from Wastewise Mornington Peninsula, and we run a, I do have a bit of a cold, it's nothing serious, but so bear with me. So we run a whole range of different projects on the peninsula around reducing waste and litter. The project I'm talking about this morning is a trial that we ran in Mount Martha called Plastic Free Places. It was basically to look at not just working on the litter side of things in Mount Martha, which a whole bunch of groups have been doing for quite some time and doing amazing work, but we wanted to address the problem at the source. So we engaged an organisation called Boomerang Alliance, and we then worked with 17 businesses in Mount Martha, so local restaurants, cafes, markets, etc., to actually reduce plastic takeaway items at the source. So before they actually make it onto our beaches or into our waterways, how can we tackle something right from the outset? So we work with these 17 businesses over a very short period of time, 3 months, to basically look at a trial, and we managed to reduce 34,000 items of single-use plastic, basically eliminated and never used. We had a really great bunch of organisations work with us on this trial. So we had Berg Dolphin Research Institute are here today, boomerang bags. Also here I saw the Shire has been incredibly supportive. We had Mount Martha Surf Lifesaving Club involved, Beach Patrol, so a couple of different beach patrol groups, Raw Travel, and also support from Peninsula's Last Straw, where we really focused on eliminating plastic straws as well amongst a lot of the other single-use plastic items. So based on this great success for just this really short period of time, we managed to appoint a Plastic Free Places coordinator to take this program to the next level. And that's really going to start once we've got a bit more certainty around what can happen with businesses and once they've got their doors open again. So that's going to happen after the next lockdown, or after this current lockdown period. We'll try and work across the entire peninsula with additional businesses and really looking at tackling waste at the source with those groups and making sure that we're not just cleaning up on our beaches, but actually trying to reduce where it comes from the outset. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Next, we are going to have Remy and Grubb present.
Are you there, Amy? Oh, sorry. Get to unmute myself. It's Amy from the Mornington Peninsula. Remy and Grubb is really two characters that we created to get the community engaged in rubbish and recycling in sort of a fun and interactive way. We really wanted two characters, well, we call them our monsters, to enable people to easily identify which items they should be put into the rubbish and recycling bin, particularly when they're out in the public. So in 2018, they first were featured on some stickers on our public foreshore bins. And last year they were screened in the Mornington and Rosebud and Sorrento cinemas, and the Dramana drive-in also featured them. And so they, with their starring roles, at least 310,000 people have seen Remy and Grubb, and that was across the summer period, the last holidays. So we're really ecstatic that they've had so much coverage, and we've also thinking about like what's next for Remy and Grubb. And so we're keen to sort of get them out a little bit more into the public. So you should look out for them when you're out in the streets more. We're slowly rolling them out across all of our bins. We've been thinking about perhaps writing them a song and also getting them a book written about them for the local preschools and the local primary school. And so just wanted to say like great support from Balcombe Secondary College, Balcombe College, who have assisted us because even though they're monsters, they don't really speak. And so we had two students do the voiceover for their feature appearance in the cinemas. So grateful for Balcombe for assisting us, and so we're really enthusiastic and hopefully you'll be able to see more of Remy and Grubb into the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amy. And then I'll just keep you on to go ahead and talk about the Waste Pioneers program as well.
So we're really fortunate to be partnering with Veolia for this program. Veolia approached us, I think it was 2018, to introduce a new innovative program to schools to talk about waste education. And I'll just get Randy to talk about a bit more of the program, just to get someone else speaking. So Randy?
Working? Oh, there you go. Hi, how are you? My name is Randy. I'm from Veolia. So yeah, we partnered with Mornington to deliver the Waste Pioneers program. So we had 11 schools in the Mornington Council participate in this free 6-week program, which was focusing on waste and recycling. But the main topic for this program was ocean plastics. So as part of this program, we went out to every participating school and delivered a presentation. And we introduced the pitch. And so the pitch was an innovative, was challenging the students to come up with an innovative solution to tackling ocean plastics, and so it was really open for the schools to interpret in terms of how they wanted to participate in the program. So it was either creating something to stop the plastic from entering the ocean, or taking the plastic that was already in the ocean and recycling it, or creating a movement to actually work with say a local McDonald's to actually stop plastic from entering as litter. So it was really exciting to see what some of the schools came up with, and then they had to present their pitch in front of a judging panel. So we had the former mayor of Mornington there, we had a representative from Sustainability Victoria, and we also had a business person from New Tech Poly. As part of the program, the schools also had to conduct a cleanup event. So we collected 195 kilograms of waste that would have otherwise ended up in the ocean. What we did with that waste was Mornington and Veolia's Our Pitch. So we participated in the program along with the students. Is we segregated the plastic from those cleanups, and we took it to New Tech Poly. And so every participating school received a plaque that was actually made from the plastics that they collected as part of their beach cleanups. So this was just a way for us to kind of start to introduce a circular economy with the students, but also get them to think about how their solutions can also be done now. So the winning school of that program was Mount Martha. And they came up with a bit of a collection deposit scheme across the beaches, where you put, you collect plastic, you put it into this machine, and it dispenses a credit, which you can then use in local cafes and local shops. So again, it's going back to supporting the economy within a local area. And as part of the program, Veolia also donated Veolia services to the schools. So we also wanted to work with the schools and actually get them to have the correct recycling infrastructure within their school environment. So that was just a bit of a startup where we had someone come out and actually look at what type of waste streams they have, where are they disposing their waste, and what would be the best waste infrastructure, so that way they can recycle to their maximum capacity. Amy, anything else?
So this project, I just wanted to highlight that this project really wanted to showcase the students and their ability to actually think innovatively and creatively about problems that we have currently. And it's some of the ideas that they came up with truly just blown us away, and we're very inspired and about the future generations that are coming forth. And we want to encourage them to keep being leaders and innovators. And the next stage of the project is like when the schools go return back, we'll get in contact with them to actually see whether we can make some of their ideas actually a reality and start prototyping some of these great solutions. Yeah, so thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Vicky and Randy. Next, we will have Project Enduro present.
Emma, because he's a police. Oh, he's there. Good.
Hi there. Thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear it all okay. And Mel's here from the council, so she will chime in. So Project Enduro came about, firstly from a police kind of need. We realised that we have a lot of problem with the kids in the Hastings area, mini bikes, that kind of stuff. Then we realised there's actually a fantastic motorbike track 5 kilometres away from where this was all going on. So we formed this fantastic partnership. So we kind of had the Mornington Shire Council, once again, big thanks to them. They had access to the kids, and through Western Port Secondary College with Miles there, did some great work sort of sourcing suitable participants, which we'll talk about in a moment. Carl from the Motorcycle Club at Hastings was fantastic. And then, so we kind of had a motorbike track, we had kids, and then so also we're missing motorbikes, so we formed, we eventually contacted Suzuki Australia, so they came on board, supplied motorcycles. So the aims of the project, we were looking to engage young people in a very positive way, so we want to turn a negative thing into a positive thing, but also engage them in something that exists in their communities. So it all came together quite nicely. So we wanted, when police come across these kids, we wanted a an activity which really resonated with the kids. And it's amazing how many didn't know that this amazing facility was just down the road. So it all came together quite well. We got some funding and some great donations, and it's been quite good. We managed to run through one course. So there was 4 4-hour sessions where the kids were provided with a motorcycle each, all the safety gear. And then we had Cam Taylor, who's a local guy who used to be a professional motorcycle racer and is a motorcycle coach. So he led it. So we had some really positive role modelling through Cam. And the idea was, once the kids were engaged in this great activity, it was a real big opportunity to build some rapport with them, for police to have a chat and have sort of their attention. It was a great opportunity for youth services to engage with the kids and let them know a little bit about their services. So and a really good opportunity to build those relationships, and a great for the kids to sort of belong to something that's bigger than something that's local, so that really strong connection to the community. So, and they were the outcomes we got. We managed to run one course with 6 young people just prior to the whole COVID thing. Fortunately, the whole project's hibernated quite well. We've been in contact with Suzuki. They're still committed to it. Cam Taylor's really keen to be involved. The Motorcycle Club's been fantastic. So it's hibernated quite well. So we look forward to getting the green light to proceed in the future. So I don't know if Mel is from the council would like to say a couple of things, because they've been fantastic.
Yeah, I'll just add that our target group was really at-risk young people and vulnerable young people, and we got that in the program. And one example of an outcome for one of those young people is a 15-year-old boy who was highly disengaged from school, issues at home with his family, issues with drugs and alcohol, at risk of having early contact with the police. And he came onto the program and really stood out as, like, just shone in the program, became a role model for the other kids in the program, really built that relationship with Neil from the police and us at Youth Services. He's now doing better at school. He's getting support for his drug and alcohol issues. The club offered him free membership at the Motorcycle Club, and he goes down there every weekend. He went through a leadership course with them. He's riding with his dad. So he's just had amazing outcomes, and I think he's a really good example of the kind of work that program can do in the community.
Can I just say one? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Sorry, Carl. Yeah, so one just briefly before Carl just speaks. It's also allowed a really great, it's improved the connections between all of the agencies. So we've got to know the guys, obviously Mel at the council really well. We've got great ties now between police and Western Port College and the Motorcycle Club. So that was a real sort of bit of a bonus too. Sorry, Carl.
That's right. I was just going to give you a bit of background. The club's run on the Bluescope Recreation Reserve. We've got about 1,600 members covering the peninsula, and 50% of those are under 18. So some of the kids who've been on that course have been down to the club subsequently, and get a real insight that there are other activities they can get into from a community point of view. And it's been fantastic, and we very much support it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carl, Mel, and Neil. Next, I will invite Barco Street Reserve Playground and Landscaping. They're here.
Emma, I don't see that Mansell's on.
Perfect.
He
No.
might be working.
Yeah, and we're going a little bit longer, so no stress with that. If they pop on, we can always invite them to speak. But we will just go ahead and skip to Harrison Hansen.
Harry might also be doing schoolwork online.
No worries. We'll skip to getting the dirt on your soil.
Hi everyone, my name's Jackie Salter, and I'm representing the Mornington Peninsula Landcare Network. I would like to, first of all acknowledge the Bunurong traditional owners of this land. Getting the dirt on your soil is a soil education project delivered by the Mornington Peninsula Landcare Network in conjunction with Agriculture Victoria and funded through Sustainable Table through their Right for Change initiative. The project empowered 10 beef and sheep farmers in the Murray Plains region of the Mornington Peninsula to better understand their soil with the aim of reducing the amount of fertiliser that they applied. So although landholders on the peninsula are overwhelmingly really keen to implement responsible farming practices, most of them don't come from a farming background, and a lot of them aren't aware of best practice land management, especially regarding soil health. So through a series of soil workshops, individualised soil testing and reports, and a hands-on field day where we built a 8-foot deep soil pit, the project empowered grazers to better understand their soil requirements so they could make more informed decisions about the amount of fertiliser that they were applying. And we knew that creeks in that area have really low water quality due to the high levels of phosphorus and potassium flowing into, and these creeks flow into Port Phillip Bay and Western Port Bay and compromise the seagrass and the mangrove vegetation there, especially Western Port, and reducing water quality for the bay users. So by educating farmers in the Murruduck region about how to undertake soil tests and interpret the results, we will reduce nutrient runoff into waterways, reduce the decline of eucalypts in paddocks, and improve productivity. We developed a video to promote the project, and we're hoping to deliver this to other regions in the future. So the more that we can raise awareness of the delicate nature of Australia's soils and the fact that they're not a renewable resource, the more we'll see a move towards better land management and regenerative agriculture. Thank you very much, and I'd just like to congratulate everyone. I think all the projects are so inspiring. It's been a really great morning, so thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jackie, for your time. Next, I will ask Sunnyside Beach Restoration.
Try to turn my video on, hang on a second. All right, apologies for that. Hope everyone's well. My name's Chris Lyon and I work as a project manager for the Mornington Peninsula Shire in the project delivery unit. One of the major strategies for the Shire is the local integrated drainage strategy, and that strategy deals with all things drainage and flood management. And the programs within that strategy is a review of all the outfall drains all the way around the peninsula, of which we have in excess of 150. When you compare to Frankston Council, who have around about 2 direct to bay outfalls, it's an asset that we need to manage. And one of the outfalls that we identified that required upgrading was the comes out at Sunnyside Beach. The pipe on the beach is all broken up and presented a safety hazard to people using the beach as well. So we had funds allocated for that project, and what we do when we're working on these sorts of projects is that we look for opportunities to improve them and to better them for the community and the environment. And being that the pipe discharges straight out into the bay, one of the key things we need to install, we identified for installing, was the gross pollutant trap, or a GPT. This protects or removes all the rubbish that comes into a drainage pipe from a typical catchment, and this one has a lot of gravel roads and wineries and farms and residential areas as well. So there's a lot of material that ends up in the bay that we would like not to end up in the bay. So the GPT was identified to be installed. And what we did is we identified a type of GPT which we think is one of the best in Australia. Historically, GPTs around that are available have a bypass, so once the stormwater flow becomes too high, the water bypasses a GPT and goes straight down the pipe and discharges wherever designed to go. The GPT we decided to put in has 100% treatment of all material that goes into the pipe. It goes into a cage and it's removed from the water before it can come out the other end, and in this case into Port Phillip Bay. It is also, this style of GPT enables cost savings with maintenance. And the other key thing about this GPT is it has a viewing cover, which means you can look down inside it at all times to see how it's working and how it's protecting the environment. You can see all the rubbish that's being captured, which will be eventually taken away by our maintenance team. There's also signage put in beside the GPT, so people that use the area can understand how the whole system operates. In particular, there's a Camp Manyang just up the road, which is a camp for primary school students, which is very popular and it's used all the time, and they always use the beach for their activities and education. And so they're able to walk past it and have a look and see how things are operating. And basically, yeah, the project is a great success, and it's protecting our local environment in Port Phillip Bay, which can't be underestimated enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. I will ask Scrubs for COVID-19 medical staff to present now.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so hi, thanks for waiting so long. For those of you that are waiting to hear all about our Scrubs project, we're very much a COVID project. So I represent Boomerang Bags in Mornington Peninsula. So, sorry, Mount Martha in particular. So we've made around 4,000 bags that represent about 4,000 kilos of plastic kept out of landfill. We make bags for shopping, for produce, for gift bags, for children. Obviously, when COVID started, one of our members is a nurse, and she told us that nurses have to buy their own scrubs. They get one a day, and that's it. Now, obviously, once COVID started, they needed to have 3 or 4 scrubs a day. And these are not PPE, these are your standard cotton scrubs. So we put a call out to our community. We got donations from Mount Martha House, we got donations from Mount Martha Rotary, and we got heaps of donations from our community of fabric and cotton and needles and all sorts of things. This is all done with volunteers. We've ended up making 131 scrubs, 2 surgical pants, 62 surgical hats, and 10 laundry bags. So we had about 30 sewers at any one time. Obviously, we're all working from home because it was during the first lockdown. So we put out the very first call on the 30th of March. By the 10th of April, we had a whole bunch, I think close to 60 scrubs we delivered to Rosebud Hospital. And over the next few weeks, we delivered to Frankston Hospital and the Bays Hospital. And they're the 3 hospitals we supported. So as I said, we had about 30 people in the community. So they ranged in area from Capel Sound, Balnarring, Hastings, Murraduk, Mount Eliza, Frankston, Mount Martha, Rosebud, etc., etc. So all over the peninsula were involved. It was a lot of us doing like door drops. So people would weekly, they'd leave the finished products at the door all nicely wrapped. I would collect them and leave them the next lot of fabric. We had certain people who don't sew, so they were printing out patterns and sticky taping them together because we were using free patterns off the internet. And we had basically it was all donated fabric. It was very specific. Normally we take all kinds of things, a lot of upcycled fabric. We try not to buy anything new, and this time, because it was scrubs for nurses, obviously the fabric was quite different and very specific, but it was incredible the large amounts of fabrics that kept arriving at my front door, ready for distribution to the sewers. So we were able to do this with probably spending $200 in total. We made all of these scrubs. It was hard work for everyone, and a lot of people were at the sewing machine many hours a day. Unfortunately, I don't have the skills for it because it's quite skillful to sew a nurse's scrub or a hat, but I was really good at making phone calls and driving around, so that was my part. But we have a couple of the sewers on here today patiently waiting to hear all about it. So one of the things I guess that kept us going was the messages of support from the nurses, and I just wanted to share with you one of the messages that at a time where I was thinking, oh, this is too hard. I was doing 20 phone calls a day and driving here and driving there. And I was sort of thinking, I think it's time to wind the project up. I got a message which was, I received a lovely scrub today and it made me so happy. I have been very scared and very anxious coming to work. As you can imagine, at the beginning of all this, a nurse working in the emergency department would feel. I got to work and I received your gift. I felt so supported by my community. I actually felt happy going to work. So if we can make one healthcare worker feel good about this, then that's fantastic. So when the first lockdown kind of wound down, we thought, phew, this is over. But no. So during this latest lockdown, we've moved to making masks. So we have made over 100 masks. I've kind of lost count. For vulnerable people in our community through, we're distributing through support service centres. So there are still some people making bags, but many of our team have moved on to projects to help the community and to help our healthcare workers. So we're looking forward to all this being over and not needing any of that stuff anymore and going back to making bags. So that's it from me. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I know we all truly appreciate what you're doing right now. Next, I will ask the Briars Hay Drive to present.
Rebecca was on previously. She may have left due to work commitments. Yep.
Yep, we can always jump back if she does pop back on. Then we'll go ahead and skip to Remembering Red Hill Station. See them anywhere?
I don't think David Maddock's on. Emma?
No, I saw him earlier, but he must have signed
Yeah.
up.
Oh,
here I am.
no, he might be there.
Yeah.
David's there. David's there. Yep.
You're around. That wasn't just my image there. And anyway, we're demuted as long as you can hear me now. Yeah, Remembering Red Hill Station. I was delighted to hear from Gary that beautifying local railway stations is a key element, and we've got a lot of beautifying to do because the Red Hill Station Reserve was simply a collection of pine trees, rather large. And I'm sorry, Emma, you've disappeared, and I need you to help me share the screen. She's gone.
Yep, sorry, David. We're not doing any screen share today just because we're on such a time limit. So it's just taking a minute.
Oh, it was just one photo of the old station platform. The station platform was constructed in 1921, and the railway ran from Frankston to Biddon to Balnarring to Merricks to Red Hill, and unfortunately was shut down in 1953 with the improvement of roads and trucks. But it was a very essential element to the people of Red Hill and Main Ridge, that being primarily an area where there was the growing of apples and pears, and they needed to be shipped to Melbourne and beyond. So there was the freight for fruit and for timber and livestock, as well as being a passenger train. So it was a very important component for the people of Red Hill and Main Ridge. So what we're wanting to do is, in an interpretive sense, reproduce the platform shelter, and that work is in progress. The platform area itself has already been reconstructed, but we're in the hands of COVID-19 and structural engineers and architects and all that sort of thing. But it'll be a fantastic project, not only for the community, but also for tourists. And we get so many tourists to our area. It'll be a wonderful coverage. The shelter will include seating that'll provide views both to the Red Hill Bike Skills Park and to the Red Hill Bushland Reserve. So it's in an excellent location and on the original site. And this is a continuation of the Red Hill Community Project that started off with the community park, then the memorial and so forth. So I'd just like to acknowledge Michelle McCready for all the fabulous work that she's done in getting these projects organised and presenting them in the first place to KVB. Thank you for the KVB staff. Thank you to all the Shire officers and the councillors that are involved with these projects. And congratulations to everybody that's made a submission. It's really well done. Good on you. Thank you, Emma.
Of course, thank you so much, David. I will ask Rosebud Kite Fest to present next. Might not be here.
I can't see her name there, Emma, in my participants.
Yeah, I don't see her either. So we'll just go ahead and skip over. Holiday time, kids around.
I don't think she's there either. She's working.
No worries. Rock and Roll Fest.
That's the same lady with the kite fest. So
She's waving. She's
oh,
waving.
she's here. Good-o, good-o. Come in.
Galaxy S10.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry, I apologise. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for my surroundings, and if I have to move, I am working from home and homeschooling and looking after my almost 1-year-old. So I do apologise. My name is Kate Rees, and I am part of the Rosebud Chamber of Commerce. Firstly, wow, fantastic projects and programs going on in our community. I'm seriously impressed and really humbled. I'd also like to acknowledge the Bunurong and Bunurong people, the people on land whose land I am currently meeting you on. I'd like to pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I've been asked to talk about the Rosebud Kite Festival today. I get a little bit overwhelmed, so I've written it down, so I apologise if it's a little bit automated. So the Rosebud Kite Festival was created by the Rosebud Chamber of Commerce Committee in 2004. This single day event was established to encourage visitors to Rosebud over the Labor Day long weekend in March. What started off as a few stalls and some activities has now grown to an event which attracts on average 10,000 visitors on the day. Located on the Rosebud foreshore, this event has grown so much in 16 years that this year the Chamber explored expanding the footprint of the event to include activities on the Rosebud Village Green. Our event is run by volunteers, predominantly from the Rosebud Chamber of Commerce, but also from various local community groups. The Rosebud Kite Fest features professional kite flyers who fill our skies with enormous colourful kites. There is a designated kite flying area for professionals, designated area for kite flying open to the public where patrons are encouraged to join in the fun. We also have kite viewing areas where patrons can grab a bite to eat and sit and watch the professional kite flying. There's kite making workshops, food stalls, market stalls, circus tent, children's animal farm, mini golf, Indigenous craft, kids activities and carnival rides. Not only does this event also showcase some of the region's most talented musicians, but our professional and community stages a host of performances by local school bands, dance groups, ukulele players. Our family favourite roving performers such as Spiff Daddy and Tubba the Robot add to the family-friendly atmosphere. This family-friendly event not only draws our local residents, but also demonstrates to visitors the amazing talent, produce and crafts which is abundant on the peninsula. Although the impact of COVID-19 has left some doubt about our 2021 Kite Fest, the Rosebud Chamber of Commerce is very proud to have the opportunity to continue to present such a unique event. That's pretty much all from me. In terms of the Rock and Roll Festival, Julie, the head of our Rock and Roll Fest committee, was due to present, but unfortunately she has been called away with work commitments, so I do apologise on that.
No worries. Thank you so much for filling in for the kite fest. Kind of really appreciate it. I'm glad you could attend. Perfect. So we'll just skip over Rock and Roll Fest since Julie's not here and go to Mending Matters.
Hi, my name's Jeanette, and there are actually two of us. Brenda is my partner. I started this in 2018, and I found there was a need for people for basic alterations or mending and repairing, because our motto is repair, reuse and repurpose. We have a lovely little room at Seawinds Community Hub. We started with 1 day a week. We are now 2 days a week, of course not at the moment. With that, we actually put a request in a newsletter for donations. So we found a lot of ladies were downsizing and having a lot of leftover fabric and haberdashery, laces, you name it. So Brenda and I actually create a lot of giftware, I can give you a list of all the lovely items we do: tea bag wallets, emergency sewing kits, shoulder bags, sustainable veggie bags to take shopping, kids aprons, children's PJs, dresses, adult aprons, lavender wardrobe sachets, Christmas gift knickknacks, paper gift bags. And we also do a collaboration with Clothes for You with men on a voucher system to actually alter their trousers that they can get for their use. We have been going really well. Unfortunately, coronavirus has put a bit of a stop to it, but it hasn't stopped Brenda and I actually creating a lot of items. So hopefully one day we will get out there and have a lovely big market. And we're hoping that all the funds that we actually generate will be going to some sort of scholarship in the near future for Seawinds Community Hub. And I think Brenda would like to say a few words too.
I think you've covered it all pretty well, Net. Some of the mending that we've done is taking up hems and jeans and pants and skirts. We've altered blouses and dresses, replaced waistbands. I've mended school backpacks. Net's done school uniforms. I think that by doing this, we hope to reduce the landfill just a tiny wee bit by reducing and repurposing the donations that we've received with the fabrics and things, and extending the life of the different people's clothing. And all this is done with a very minimal cost, if any cost at all, to our clients. I think that's about it, but it's great that Tiny Towns has been able to give everybody a brief overview of what they offer and what we offer to our community and widely Victoria. So I think that's it from me, Net. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Up next, I have Ride Billy Cart Derby 2019.
I think that's up to me now.
Terry is there.
Hi, it's Terry Fippen from the Point Nepean Menshed. I think the Billy Cart Derby just came about through an offer from Bunnings to take a pallet of 25 billy carts in various kit forms, and we engaged the Rye Community House and the Rye community groups in setting a Billy Cart Derby up for primary school children to take the kits and build them and decorate them either through the men's shed or through the parents and the schools themselves. We had great support from the Rye community groups, Rye Lions, the RSL, the Bowls Club, Community House, even the Rye Hotel. They purchased the carts, so we were able to give the carts away to disadvantaged families to come and take part on the day. The aim was just have a lot of fun, and which we did. We had very well supported, and at the same time able to raise a lot of money for then the drag appeals, and able to pass on money at the same time. And it was so much fun, we decided that it should continue every year. We only had one accident on the day, which was fantastic, other than the fact it was embarrassing for myself, because I was the only one who crashed the cart and destroyed it. So it's sort of, so this year we tried again just before the COVID lockdown, and again another successful time. It really brought the schools together. The primary school children loved it because it was a straightforward road. We didn't make it too difficult for them, and they just had a great lot of fun. The official races were shambolic, to say the least, because all the kids wanted to keep on racing. They didn't want to stop, and they all got prizes at the end of the day, and everyone went away happy. I was very happy because I suddenly saw 25 billy carts disappear from my garage and went to various homes in the community. And the great thing is some of those carts came back again this year for the kids raced again this year, the same thing, and all asking to keep going from the future. So it's a very successful day, bringing the community together and raising money for charity. It's very simple, nothing on the scale of some of the international competitions that we see, but I think we just had a lot of fun, which is what it was all meant to be. And Bunnings were very happy. The fact that they'd had a pallet of billy carts disappear off their warehouse. So I think everyone was very pleased with the end result. So it's and ongoing. We've already planning for 2021. 2020 we got in just before the lockdown. That was a much more scaled down event, but then at that time we just raised money for Bushfire Appeal and Wildlife Victoria. And I think the same again, 2021 will be the same, probably the same charities will support again. I think the great thing is it drew together the men's shed, with the average age is well into the 70s, and the younger kids from the primary schools had grandparents and families all joining in, and all with one aim, is just to have fun for the afternoon. The residents were quite happy, which is very pleasing for me, because we actually ran in the street that I live in, so it's sort of so I had to go with the neighbours. So and they're all keen to go ahead next year. So, and it's one of those things. I think it's bringing an old tradition back into play. And this year, the primary schools have already asked if they could have the billy carts early and have them as an art project, so that they could actually, children can paint them well ahead of time. So it's probably what I need. All I probably need to say about the billy carts. I think it was a huge success for the community and for the families involved.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Terry. And I think you're actually on this next one as well, the Community House Indigenous Planting.
Okay. Well, yes, that was, we, at the Right Community House, we had a lot of strange plants in the front garden that just grown there from some reason. And the Peninsula Hot Springs and the Right Community House got together and decided that let's do something with the front garden and make it an Indigenous garden. They already had the layout there, and the guys were fantastic. They just came in with we took 3 trailer loads worth of rubbish out of the garden, and they brought in whole different grasses and at the time the tiniest little plants, but they're just so grown, and such a big difference to the community house. So instead of a big grey building with weeds and overgrown plants, it now looks fantastic. You walk in with they've decorated it beautifully, and the plants are all growing, and it's again the community effort. So we have volunteers came in to help with the planting, as well as the local businesses together, and the Right Community House and the community now have the benefit of a beautiful entrance to the building. So it's, and I think our problem now is to go back and keep it under control, because the plants have grown so well. Great choices, and it shows what Indigenous planting can do for a garden, and how well they can be maintained. So it's, that's probably all I have to say really on that one. It was just a great day out. Even had Chris Brain, the local MP, decided he came in and gave a hand, and he wore his lovely silk shirt and he's very nicely dressed up, and the gardeners couldn't resist pushing him into the dirt. So it was great fun, but again showed community spirit, and Chris was fantastic, and I think he wants to come back in again and help again. So it's so big success.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Terry. I know we have one more from you in a little bit.
Okay.
We'll go to the Only But Cigarette Litter campaign.
That's me. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Thank you for that. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional landowners, and to also extend my welcome to everybody that's here today. It's lovely to always see the projects that come through, and the judges definitely have a hard job in deciding. So I think oftentimes people think that environmental awards, they can just get them like that, but they're actually not like that at all, because there's always a lot of people doing a lot of great things. So I'm going to talk about the Only But campaign. So the Only But campaign started in 2017 and is an entendre for the word but. it takes a different approach in relation to litter prevention. Oftentimes people get very, very angry and aggressive in relation to litter, and it's definitely not a way to solve a problem ongoing. So I decided to choose cigarette butts as the biggest ticket litter item. So I'm probably known for being a bit ambitious when it comes to littering prevention, but that's not a pun there, but it's an interesting subject, litter prevention, because whilst everybody seems to have a desire to not have litter, there are gaps along that waste hierarchy. So just to give you an idea, the population of Australia is 25 million people. 12.8% of our population smoke, and 6 in 10 Australians use the ground as an ashtray. That's 1,920,000 people that need re-educating. And one of the reasons why we have such a big problem with cigarette butt littering is because the Only Butt campaign is actually based on the Victorian Litter Action Alliance, which is in cooperation with Sustainability Victoria. So the campaign actually follows a proven method of best practice in litter prevention. And as you try to work with a big ticket item like cigarette butts, so cigarette butts actually make up for 58% of the litter found, and cigarette butts are plastic. One of the main reasons why people don't realise that it's such a problem is because they don't see their butt as plastic. So rather than arguing with people about what they should and shouldn't be doing, the Only Butt campaign's aim is to be a fun approach, which is a very Australian attitude, because when we think about any sort of problem that we've got, even we look at COVID, we often can find people making humour. So the Only Butt is there to inspire people that if they're actually really truly serious about litter prevention, then they'll put their butts out there. So it's not a beauty contest, and you'd be amazed at how many people are willing to show their butts for a good cause. So we have actually been sponsored by Bendigo Bank and created the Only Butt website. So what people can do is they can actually go across there, they can access resources, understanding, they can see why we're inspired. And then we also have an online campaign where we have through Instagram. So fortunately for me, I get to wake up every day and somebody's showing me their butt. Again, it's not a beauty contest. When we did the initial campaign with the Mayor, Brian Payne, we were extremely attentive to align ourselves with standards and practices to ensure that women were not objectified, and therefore there was no insight of violence. So those sorts of things are really, really important. In saying that, on top of that, the best part of it is that talking about cigarette butt littering actually isn't that easy. And whilst people might seem to want to solve it, actually getting a conversation about it is very, very hard. So when I was awarded the 2020 Victoria Local Hero for Australian of the Year this year, I was actually awarded in October last year. I was awarded and recognised for the efforts of the Only Butt campaign. So I could talk about cigarette butts and touching other people's butts all day long, but what I will say is that I'm very, very proactive in aligning the campaign. We used the Woolworths in Rye as an example where we won the 2017 Litter Prevention Award. We installed 2 freestanding ashtrays that now sit at the front of the store. Back in 2016, when I started the litter audits, we went from 3,000 cigarette butts a month from bin 23 on Ozone to the front of the store. And I can happily say now that our litter audits each month are around 50 cigarette butts. So whilst many, many people say that it's a hopeless cause and you can't do it and you can't reach it, it's all about standards. So the Only Butt campaign, again, is a campaign that brings the fun side to litter prevention. It allows people to participate in the campaign, and it also raises awareness around cigarette butt littering And especially now at a time where we look at COVID and germs and things like that, it's really important for people to understand that dropping their butts on the ground doesn't help the environment. We also have another area where we've done sunscreen sampling for the past 3 years at Rye. And the results coming back from RMIT is that we have high levels of zinc count in our water. So compared to the other beaches that have been tested, Rye has a huge amount of zinc in the water, and it can be linked back to cigarette butt littering. So I still pick up litter every single day. I'll have to say that Rye is looking extremely clean right now. And I'm still picking up hundreds of cigarette butts across town, but I'm grateful to say that the consciousness is shifting, and we can definitely see that this year. And Michelle McCready, you absolutely deserve a champion's effort for all the people that you bring together and showcase all the great efforts that people are doing. So I'm excited for the Only Butt campaign. We're working with the Australian of the Year at the moment with some conversations for media. And there's lots of other things ongoing, but I would just like to end by congratulating everyone for having the courage to put their projects forward for this year's Tidy Town Awards.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Josie. And then I actually have you up next as well, talking about the Seaside Scavenge in Rye.
Okay. So Seaside Scavenge is actually run by a committee. Michelle Cheers is on the committee, Iris Kelly and Sasha Guggenheimer. So Sasha was actually the person who brought the Seaside Scavenge model to Rye. And then I came in on the second year and started to develop the graphics and the communications around the Seaside Scavenge. So just to give you an idea, the Seaside Scavenge this year that we had on January 12th, we presented that as to the public at the Blair Arrow Yacht Squadron to show people what we've done as a community. So we were able to connect with over 50 stakeholders, including the EPA, DELP, the Shire, not-for-profits, an assortment of people. And basically, I suppose you might say that after volunteering your time for 4 years for an event that goes across 5 hours during peak time of summer, we made a lot of connections within the community and a lot of things that we do. So we get people to make a pledge on the day to reduce their single-use plastics, so they might go topless on coffee. We run an art and sculpture prize, so we get people to recreate their litter. We carved a smooth ray from sand with a seahorse attached to its tail, based on an image that was actually seen on iNaturalist through the Rye Pier Biodiversity Audit. We were able to run the event, which ran on the Rye foreshore. We had some great help from the Mornington Peninsula Shire, who have funded the event each year. The event won't run in Rye again this year. It'll actually run in Macrae, which is very, very exciting because we're all about engaging the community and building that consciousness. So if you hear me, I'll probably often say, talk about the consciousness that we're trying to shift. And I think that that's something that we all collectively are aiming for. And that is that we would like to see this greater awareness, this greater connection, this greater respect. But all of that starts within your own community and how we treat one another in relation to our projects, in the fact of putting principles above personality. So in relation to the Seaside Scavenge, what's beautiful about that is that we were able this year to engage over 500 participants on the day to collect litter. And for the first time in 5 years, we were able to demonstrate a reduction in waste by 400 kilos. So in years prior, we went from 550, 660, 770, 880 down to 460 something kilos. We were also able to present a reduction in cigarette butt littering. And I mean, I could just go on and on and on, but it was great. We aligned with Australian of the Year. We did the Great Aussie Pledge. We had over 700 people pledge to reduce their use in some way, shape or form. And the Seaside Scavenge model actually comes from Sydney. So it's based on a creation by AJ in Sydney. And over time, we sort of made the event customized to Rye. And it's, you know, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, as I'm sure like the Kite Festival and many other people are aware that your work behind the scenes for this sort of thing is quite large. And then on the day, it all just goes so quickly, but it's just such a joy to see the community and see the pride that our community takes in having such a beautiful event.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Josie. We'll have Peter from the Rye Hotel up next. See if he's on here.
You there, Peter?
Just messaging me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Peter, are you still there?
I think he's gone.
All right, we'll go ahead and skip to Schoolies Week then.
AJ?
Yeah, hi, it's me again, Andrew, and it was remiss of me before not to acknowledge the traditional owners, so I'd like to acknowledge the Bunurong Boonwurrung peoples and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So Schoolies Week is a fantastic project between the Mornington Peninsula Shire Youth Services, Victoria Police, the Rye Beach Traders Association, and several other support services such as the Red Frogs and Dancewise, which are a drug and alcohol service. As you are probably aware or may not be aware, every year young people like to celebrate schoolies, you know, their end of schooling life. And we have about 4,000 to 5,000 young people that visit the Mornington Peninsula to celebrate schoolies. And many of those venture down to Rye. And in 2018, we had approximately 5,000 young people come to the peninsula and Rye in particular on the foreshore. And in 2018, we saw some challenges where there was some antisocial behaviour, some violence and some things that weren't that great that activated, I guess, some distress in the community. And as a result, the Shire, with all those partners I mentioned, put together a bit of a plan to make it a lot safer for the next year, which was last year, 2019, where we activated a safe space on the Rye foreshore, which was a fenced off area for those young people to come in, to feel safe, to feel acknowledged, and to have just a really great time without some of those stresses that they might have had been exposed to had we not had those, I guess, that infrastructure in place. So as a result of, I guess, all the collaborative effort between ourselves and all the other services, we're able to facilitate a really fantastic Schoolies Week. There weren't any incidents within the space. There was no antisocial behaviour. Yeah, we had, I think, some really great feedback from the young people that attended. And yeah, obviously with COVID this year, we probably aren't in a position to maybe facilitate something similar, but our service, along with all our other partners, are always there to support our young people. So yeah, it was just a really great event last year. So thank you.
Perfect, thank you so much. And then we'll just go back to Peter from the Rye Hotel now.
So can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, great. Good, I'm sorry about that. I'm a bit of a troglodyte when it comes to technology. First of all, I want to say how wonderful it is to hear from everyone, and having lived on the peninsula all my life, to see all the remarkable work that's going on within the in my own very backyard. It's fantastic. I'm basically here just to talk about an environmental initiative that we had some years ago with regards to solar panelling atop the Rye Hotel. It was a collaboration between the Mornington Peninsula Shire, one of our trades groups down here, and also the Sustainable Melbourne Fund who did a lot of the financing for it. We back in 2017, we put about 349 solar plates on the top of the Rye Hotel, and we also have used a lot of solar lights, which basically means a lot of our lighting within the premises goes off when the sun is high and shining, and then comes on again if the sun goes down. We've also got 3 sets of electric car chargers, 2 Teslas and 1 other generic one for all the other cars. We're also very much involved with recycling, and have embraced a lot of those initiatives that have been put up by the Shire, like the Last Straw and so forth. We're very conscious of looking at how we use detergents and so forth, and also doing quite a lot more recycling. I've been lucky enough to address a number of seminars and business groups with regards to the benefits of solar panelling and energy saving. And unfortunately at this time, regrettably with COVID, a lot of those recycling things have had to be put on hold to a degree, but we're still addressing this very much, and I think most businesses are endeavouring to do the same, using things that are more of a biodegradable and break down, as opposed to straight plastics and so forth. So that's basically the story of this one initiative. It's been, again, I'd like to just reinforce the support that we received from the Mornington Peninsula Shire, who have been great in assisting us in every way with regards to that. And we're looking forward to a lot more people embracing solar energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter. Next, we'll have Crittenden Wines go.
Hi, thanks, Emma, and hi everyone. I'm Rollo Crittenden, representing our family winery, Crittenden Wines. So we're based at the foot of Red Hill, about 5 kilometres inland from Dromana. And I guess I'm a second generation winemaker and viticulturalist. My parents planted the vineyard in 1982. And for a long time, the vineyard was really operated, as was the Infinite Wisdom at the time, very conventionally. So it was really being operated in terms of if there was a problem, there was a chemical to fix it. So using glyphosate to control weeds, all sorts of synthetic fertilizers being used in the soil, and that sort of seemed to work fairly well. We didn't know any otherwise for a long time. And then I guess it reached a point where we realized we started to have a problem. What we realized was that when we harvested our grapes and we started to make our wines, we didn't have balance in the wines that we were producing. So the problems, I guess, manifested in we had to get higher sugar levels to get the flavour components that we liked in the wines. So the wines were getting more alcoholic over time. The acids were dropping out quickly. We didn't have sort of tannin structure and colour that we like to see in our wines. And we traced this back to our soils. And I think it became apparent probably about sort of 12, 13 years ago that through continual sort of use of synthetic chemicals in the soil and really not reinvesting in our soils, we had a problem. So we started to do a lot of research and try and work out how we could rectify this issue. And we learnt very gradually, we learnt how to compost and do other sort of processes in our vineyard to really improve our soil health. So the main 2 components that we do is composting. We have a very large compost heap on site, and that actually uses a lot of the byproducts of the winemaking process. So we use all the grape skins and stalks that we take out of the winery at the end of each season. We also use local horse manure from stables that we get delivered here to site. And we use also any green tree mulchings, which are all the key elements of a good compost. We actually make that on site, and we have about 450 cubic metres now that we're producing of compost. And we're also taking the byproduct from other local wineries too, which is fantastic. So we spread that out twice a year. And that's not only just really great for introducing nutrients into the soil, but it's a great inoculum for very beneficial microbes that grow in the soil that actually help with the viticultural process as well. We also do green mulching. So we're doing cover crops in our interrows. We're using broad beans, so fava beans. We're doing peas. oats, which we grow up, and actually the microbes that come from the compost actually then adhere to the root system in these cover crops and benefit the soil as well. So these, I mean, I could go on for a long time about the benefits, but it's amazing to see that in the last sort of 7 or 8 years that the results have been fantastic from a quality perspective with our wines. We've seen a huge increase in the quality, and we've been getting some great accolades for our wines as well. But I think that more importantly, or equally as importantly, this has really started a new ethos for us in the winery with regards to sustainability in the environment. And so we've let this flow into other areas of our business too. We now have solar panels on our roof that generate the power to drive both the wine production side as well as our office and cellar door. We use recycled water. So this is from the outfall that goes from Craigie Road down to Gunnamatta. We actually tapped into that. So all of our irrigation on the property now comes from recycled water. We recycle our own water now. So we installed a recycling plant to treat our own water, which then goes back to the mains rather than going out to run off into the creeks, which is fantastic. So that's from the winery. We now have bees on the property too, which are great for pollination. So I think that it's really nice, I'd say, from our perspective as a wine producing family, that we're able to, I think, be one of the leaders in our region and hopefully in Australia too, with regards to sustainable farming, sustainable viticulture, and making sure that everything that we do ensures that the environment is better at the end of the process than when we came into it. So it's exciting for us to be a part of this process.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Now we're going to jump back to Briars Hay Drive.
Hi all, my name is Tristan Brigham. I'm the team leader of operations out here at the Briars. So I'm here just to chat a bit about the Hay Drive program. But first just wanted to do this Mornington Shire acknowledges and pays respect to Bunurong Bunurong people and traditional custodians of these lands' waters. So the Briars Park was originally one of the first European settlements on the peninsula, dating back to about the 1840s. The property came over to the Shire as a private park and first opened to the public in the 1970s. So the park, we have an ethos of grow, nurture, share, and part of the key parts of the park include our 90-hectare wildlife sanctuary and over 400 acres of broadacre farmland. So the Briars Hay program came out from a broader program we've been doing with regenerative agriculture on the property. We started the program back in 2016 when the Shire ceased the lease of the farm. It's previously used as a feedlot, and the soils had gotten heavily degraded during that time. We started a program to rejuvenate the soil carbon as well as to improve the biodiversity out in the pastures themselves. Working with our fire prevention officer, we managed to redirect some funding that was originally in place to do broadacre slashing of the farmlands. We redirected that funding to actually improve the pasture health, to prepare the farm to produce productive hay again. Working with our partners with the Lions Club Need for Feed program and some local agricultural providers, we got the pastures to a level where they were now free of invasive weed species and were of a quality that they could be cut and really produce the hay. So the Shire covered the costs of producing the pasture and getting it ready, and then partners came in to cover the costs of the baling as well as donating time to actually ship and produce the bales. From about 2019 to this current fire season, we were actually able to produce over 2,000 hay bales that left the property and headed up to fire-affected regions throughout Victoria, including supporting farmers and wildlife properties as well. We're continuing this program and also to improve our carbon sequestration, and we're looking at calculated about 1,500 tonnes of carbon being sequestered by these pastures this year alone. In addition to the regenerative farming, we've also done a lot of work to preserve our creek lines and improve a wetland biodiversity throughout the farm. So that's been over another 1,000 trees planted this year as well.
Okay, thank you so much for presenting on that for us. Next, I will call on the Rye Beach Clean Board. Sarah.
Josie, is Sarah there?
I don't see Sarah.
I don't know if Sarah's there. Maybe Terry can talk and I can say whatever Terry can say.
Okay, I can probably pick up on that. Sarah's not available at the moment. Yes, right. Beach Clean Boards. It's an objective was to have some boards placed at Rye Bay Beach and collection buckets so that we can encourage people to stroll the beach and pick up bits of litter and carry them back to this, to be recorded how much they'd actually picked up and just help maintain the beach a little bit. It's allied to what Joseph's been doing for many years now, and this formal exercise has proved to be a very successful exercise. There are 4 boards put out on the beach with buckets, and I'm not sure the total amount that Sarah collected, but every day there was a very successful collection, and I think it's proved that the community would help and would help clean their beaches. The program was really just a pilot. It's based on what they were doing over in the UK, which is the Cornish beaches have actually got a group that actually put out these boards and buckets and bags, and they found it quite successful. So Sarah decided that it would be nice to try something at Rye Beach, and that's been really good. And it will be ongoing next year. With the only complaint we have that the tongs that we provided were perhaps too long for the kids, so we've now got the extra buckets and tongs set up for the next season. And the boards, I think, they're stored at Rye Community House ready to go. Again, it was helping with the litter situation, and quite surprisingly, the amount of support it was getting from the general public. And a few times we went down with a local councillor. We had spent a few minutes on the beach just walking along, and it's amazing what we actually managed to pick up in a short session. And if that was repeated by anyone going down to the beach, the boards are very attractive. Thanks, Jodie, for all the artwork. So very, very obvious, and we didn't lose any of the boards, so we thought they might disappear. So again, the people were very respectful for the project, which was amazing. Well, it's really gratifying, the fact that people respected the project and the materials, and encourage us to go on with it again next year, I hope. It's, I think with the Shire, I've given approval for another year, and it'll be an ongoing project to help Rye community.
Can I just add and just say that with that project, it was fantastic. Thanks, Terry. The collaboration for the project. So we took, it was like a wealth of knowledge coming together, and we obviously put it out across Rye, and we targeted all the entry points where we saw high littering. So I think I was saying earlier that I collect litter and I enter all of my litter into the Australian Marine Debris Database. And so we had good knowledge. We used the mermaid from the I'm Really a Mermaid campaign. Those posters are actually sold on Sea Road ferries and in the Dramana Information Centre. And we used them because they were bright. And so everyone got a chance to sort of say what they wanted, but it was a lovely project to see the collaboration and the respect. And we also branded the buckets. Terry's right, we didn't have anything go missing really, except for maybe a couple of buckets that the fishermen decided that they thought that they'd take them. And we chased a couple of people back to the car park going, that's not your bucket. No, it's my bucket. So it's exciting. The artwork's already done and adjusted because we obviously tested the market, and we're ready to go again. And the men's shed, if it wasn't for them and Terry, he's always the unassuming, just the effort that's gone in to go and get all the little pieces to make it come together and to store and then to bring them out and take them back, and the assistance given to us by the clean team at the Shire has made this possible.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Terry and Josie, for filling in for Sarah. Now, Josie, I'll actually have you stay on and talk about your map of Australia.
Oh, yeah. That's, I look like I've just entered everything into the awards. I actually haven't. We're just, we're a bit more strategic this year in our approach, because I kind of fly by the seat of my pants for some things, because a lot of people may not realise, but all the efforts that I make for the environment are volunteer. That's why I'm an Australian of the Year recipient this year. And through the course of my litter prevention, I've had opportunities come my way. And last year I was approached by Melbourne Zoo, and they had seen a map of Australia that I had made with the children back in 2018 when we won the Clean Up Australia Day award. So the competition was to create a map of Australia out of the litter that you collected on the day, and then to upload that, and then out of the whole of Australia we were selected. The children got a camera, and that was great for them. And can add to their experience. And then the time went on, and I suppose your reputation precedes you at times, and I say that with great humility. And Melbourne Zoo approached me and said, we'd really be interested in having you participate in the exhibition with National Geographic at Melbourne Zoo across summer. And we were wondering if you have anything big. So I'm a graphic designer, I'm not a sculptor, but I did say earlier that I'm always up for a challenge, and I do believe that opportunities come your way to do greater things as an example to other people. So I then undertook the creation of making a map of Australia, which is 2 metres by 2.3 metres in size. It's a shame that Emma can't share a photo of it, but if anybody is on Instagram, you can go to my Instagram account, which is share, as in S-H-A-R-E, to share, Josie. So I saved the map from the Clean Up Australia Day competition so that I could remake that map at any time with the children. And then I went on to use that litter, and then I sorted through another 200 kilos of litter that I collected. So all up, it took me 400 hours to make this map of Australia. So for example, Northern Territory is cigarette butts, and there is 5,500 cigarette butts attached to this map. I had to make the map so that it would withstand the weather, because it had to be outside for 3 months. I was amazed at the effort and energy and kindness shown to me by Melbourne Zoo. The efforts that were gone to actually display the artwork, and I can proudly say that even though I'm not a sculptor, that my sculpture was the only piece that stayed together for the whole period for being outside. It's now in my garage and was recently seen by Museum Victoria. So I encourage you to go and have a look at the map, because all of the litter actually comes from Rye. So when people say to me, oh, there's not really that much of a problem with litter at Rye, they probably could rethink that, because there is actually a really big problem with littering on the beach. Although 80 to 95% of litter comes via storm water, we actually have beaches that have high levels of littering, and Rye is one of those beaches. So not only did I make the map so that when you look at it from a flat point of view, you can see a whole map of Australia made out of rubbish, but actually when it sits flat, I made the topography and the cities of Australia. So you can actually look across the islands and you can see the cities, and I've made them all out of like pegs and bowls and all manner of debris found by people. So I learnt something about myself, and that is that I became extremely intimate with the whole process, and my passion to educate and inspire people to do the right thing with waste only grew from that project. So I encourage you all to go and find the map of Australia.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Josie. We have the Rye Respite Care next. And I believe it's Terry.
Terry, you're going to talk?
Yes. Yes, that was a project that came out of the blue. The women's there's a respite centre in Rye that the ladies were trying to do a lot of construction work themselves, trying very discreetly providing a bit of extra equipment for the children and the families that would come to this centre. The Mensched were approached by Bunnings and said, look, could we come along and help? So the guys and some of the female members came along, and we looked at building some playground equipment that had been left in the garage. The ladies had tried very hard to do it themselves, but it was a very, very labour-intensive project that needed quite a few people to hold all the pieces together, find all the bolts, and put it together. They also had 2 barbecues in the garage that were just left, and they'd lost one set of plans, which didn't help them. And also the locks on the doors didn't work, and the garden was pretty overgrown. So there was a really big community effort to build the playground equipment, which we did. We had probably 5 guys who were reading the plans, and all 5 had different interpretations. But we had about 10 guys actually doing the work. And then another 5 people working on the garden, and then moved on to building these barbecues. The end result was one very successful day of community involvement. We had the playground equipment installed, the 2 barbecues were up and ready to use, the door locks had been repaired, and the garden looked fantastic. And Bunnings provided some plants to go into the garden as the first stage. I went back recently to have a look at what was there. The actual barbecues had been well used, but well looked after. The playground equipment was completely intact. It'd been well used by the kids. Again, primary school age children would enjoy it. And the garden was a little bit overgrown, but a few hours and we restored that one to looking pretty reasonable. So again, it's one of those community efforts that's just a very small project, could be done in the day, and everyone just jumped in, and it's just showed the value of the volunteers in the area, because no one was paid. Bunnings even came along, and their staff just joined in as well. It was being a respite centre, we couldn't advertise the fact across where it was and the availability of this property, but it's fantastic that it's being provided for them, and the playground is still going. I think we'd like to go back and do a little bit more with the garden, and just waiting on authority from the organisation to actually go back and do some more work for them. Again, successful community project, just added to what is happening in the Rye community on the foreshore, and all the various groups getting involved. So it's very happy to be involved in that one.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I will call, she might be in school. I have Georgie McKee.
Emma, I think she's in school. Could you call Malakuta Evacuation next, because they've got another meeting at 1 o'clock?
Absolutely. They can go ahead and go right now.
Fletch, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. Normally you'd leave the best last, but somehow you've got me. And look, So I was my name's Fletch. I'm an emergency management officer for the Mornington Peninsula Shire. I was one of a number of emergency management staff that helped coordinate the repatriation of people from the largest maritime evacuation within Australia in the country's history. As a collective across the entire operation, we repatriated over 1,300 people, 194 dogs, 3 cats, 1 rabbit and a parrot. We also assisted in rotating out 4 police officers, 10 Red Cross volunteers, 3 CFA strike teams, which is about 75 firefighters from districts 2, 3 and 14 that were trapped and wound up protecting Mallacoota from fire. These people were trapped from 31st of December last year, and it seems like years ago that it actually happened. And we received the first of the 2 ships on January the 4th. And quite a large operation. So at the wharf, HMAS Choules and MV Sycamore came in. BlueScope was really good and donated their wharf to us, actually held off a ship to allow us to do this. Obviously, the Navy and Army at sea and ashore helped out. Police, CFA, SES, Ambulance Victoria, DM Roads, which is a subcontractor for the Mornington Peninsula Shire, the RSPCA and the Shire all working on the wharf. And then we had 2 repatriation centres, one which was run by Mornington Peninsula Shire and run by City of Melbourne in the city, but they didn't get too many people. But in the ERC, or the operations at the Sunwell Recreation Centre, we had police, St John Ambulance, military, again, Ambulance Victoria, Red Cross, Victorian Council of Churches and Emergency Ministries, DHHS, Shire and a coffee cart to sustain people. So basically the operations over a couple of days. So we had MV Sycamore came in at 6 o'clock on the Saturday morning. They brought 58 evacuees. 51 of those were dealt with at Somerville. The remaining 7 went to the city. We got through those 57 people in just over 45 minutes. Figured out what we were doing, how we were doing things, made some improvements and reset our operations for HMAS Choules, which came in alongside at around about 1,600. Originally, we were expecting about 200 people, but we wound up getting the bulk of the evacuees that afternoon of over 800 people. So 1,025 2-legged evacuees, 113 4-legged dogs, 3 cats, the rabbit and a parrot. But yeah, it seems kind of weird now having 800 people, you know, plus families and friends all gathered in one tidy little space at this point in time. And over 200 evacuees were bused to the Melbourne Convention and Entertainment Centre in the city. All the evacuees, over 800 of them that came through Somerville, were repatriated in about 2 hours. And then the Sycamore returned to Mallacoota, but things were too rough for them, so they transited up to Eden to help out up there. ADF rotary wing aircraft were evacuating people out of Mallacoota for the next few days, but due to smoke and fire hampering air operations, 1 more sea lift was conducted. At the same time, the Shire was providing some personnel to help out with the 25 fires going across the state at the time. There were 8 relief centres in operation, 4 in East Gippsland fires, 4 in the Northeast fires, and we actually provided staff down that way to help out, including myself. But 5 days later, HMAS Choules returned on the Wednesday. Due to BlueScope Wharf being unavailable and the low tide around the expected ETA, I speaking with the commanding officer of HMAS Cerberus, requested we use the seamanship school there. His only caveat on that was that the council coordinate the repatriation while his troops coordinate the transfer of people from ship to shore. So obviously the agencies involved on the second day, we had the Navy and Army both at sea on HMAS Choules and ashore at HMAS Cerberus, running what they love to call a beachhead. We had Red Cross, Victorian Council of Churches, DHHS, Victoria Police, the Shire, and this time 2 coffee carts, because caffeine is really important. Because of the low tide, the only way we can get people aboard ashore was via landing craft, 1 Army landing craft and a smaller Navy landing craft. They've got specific names, but I won't bore you with that. But we brought in about 280 people and about 49 dogs. And the majority of people were picked up by family and friends down at HMAS Cerberus. The rest, 55 of them, went up to the city and went home that way. The last landing craft to come ashore received a standing ovation from the military members because they held the 75 CFA volunteers that saved Nullakuta, 4 VicPol members and 10 Red Cross volunteers who are all very glad to return. The normal after-action review process was a little bit different for us. So instead of looking at what worked well, what didn't work well, and how we can improve things for next time, the Shire actually participated in a humanitarian exercise with the Navy less than a month later. Normally, an exercise of this size would take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to plan. This planning, with the help of the Shire, was completed in 3.5 days. Over 500 military trainees were evacuated from HMAS Cerberus Base to HMAS Canberra, which is the flagship for the Navy, to reinforce the learnings from the Nullakuta evacuation, to do better in the future, both for Australian and any overseas humanitarian missions that they may be participating in. And good thing is, ongoing, the military is planning on doing this exercise annually, and they're going to be seeking assistance from Mornington Peninsula Shire with what we learnt through there and how we went with this humanitarian exercise afterwards. And there we go. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for presenting with us today. Next, I'll call on the Cool Art Science Show.
Maybe. Hello, my name's Megan. I'm the coordinator of Prime Sci Science Outreach Service Team operating out of Wantirna campus. I'd just like to talk to you about Science in the Park community event, which we were holding annually at the Cool Art Historical Reserve in Summers for National Science Week. It was to bring the National Science Week celebrations to the Mornington Peninsula. Being a National Science Week event, our aim was to make the event easily accessible and appealing to all ages. And we found the event was most popular with families with primary school aged children, their parents and their grandparents. The visitors were free to roam around the reserve, visiting organisations in their marquees, speak with real scientists, academics, and the many volunteers that worked on the day to engage in hands-on science learning. We had kids teaching kids, we had parents and grandparents learning with their children about their local flora and fauna and what they can do to preserve it. The collaborative community event was with Parks Victoria, the Mornington Peninsula Shire Council, who provided funding and event support, and the federal government for National Science Week funding. The event started off small in 2016, and last year it grew to include CSIRO, EPA Victoria. We also had a visiting NASA scientist, which was very special. The organisations that were invited to promote their environmental or citizen science programs were encouraged to provide free hands-on learning opportunities for the participants. The event commenced with a welcome to country smoking ceremony by a Bunurong elder, which is very special. We also had educational tours off the reserve for children and adults, science seminars, and always a complimentary art science exhibition in the Cool Art Homestead. The food, catering and event support were provided by local Mornington Peninsula Shire businesses, including Flinders and District Lions Club, who managed the enormous job of event parking. The special organisations that attended over the last 4 years included the Natural Systems team from the Mornington Peninsula Shire Council. We had the local Friends of Cool Art, BirdLife Mornington Peninsula, Western Port Biosphere, Western Port and Port Phillip Bay Catchment Management Authority, the Victorian National Parks Association, Mornington Peninsula Astronomical Society, and Environmental Education for Kids, and many more. So we look forward to returning to Cool Art next year for National Science Week, and to continue to bring more interesting and hands-on and accessible science to Cool Art, which is what the Parks Victoria Rangers requested at the beginning. So thank you to Mornington Peninsula Shire Council and Keep Victoria Beautiful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan. Up next, we have Wastewater Watson Creek.
I think Peter O'Brien is still working. He was to do one earlier and he's not on, so I think he's working.
No worries. Thank you for letting me know. Up next, then, we will have the Hooded Plover mural. I think I see.
No, she's not on either.
No.
Em? No.
And then we have Evie Westnidge. I think Josie used for her.
Is she? Right.
Am I talking for Evie?
I know that you did help her submit. If you'd like to talk for her, or we can skip over. It's up to you.
Yeah, no, I just, I actually nominated Evie Westnedge. She's 7. She helps her mum with beach patrol in Mount Martha, and she encapsulates what we talk about for that future generation. And I think we can talk about things, but our actions always precede our words. And the reason why I chose to nominate Evie was because her actions precede her. Not only does she help her mum out and goes above and beyond, but she has such a great understanding. And whenever she's given the opportunity to express through school, she's always doing something with the environment. So I'm sorry that she's not here to talk, because she's actually way more inspiring than I am. I admire her and she admires me, and I've always looked forward to listening to her. And I actually interviewed her when I made my map of Australia for Melbourne Zoo, and got her to talk about how she feels about rubbish. And she communicated that dropping litter wasn't respecting Earth, and that there was no other planet, there was nowhere else to go, and that we really need to look after where we are. So the reason why I chose to nominate her was because I chose to put forward the generation that we talk about, that we're doing this for.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Josie. Now we have 2 left, so hang on tight. I have Zero Waste Festival. I know that was one of Sarah Rice, I believe. Yeah. Michelle.
I can just. Yeah, I don't think she's on, Emma. I'm checking, but
I didn't know if anyone else knew anything about that project, but we'll just go ahead and skip to our last one, and that's the Peninsula's last one.
So that's me. I get to put my hand up for that one. Yeah, so the Peninsula's Last Straw is exciting. So last year I was on the House of Wellness, and we got to talk about the efforts made around the area in litter prevention. And we also got to talk about the Only But campaign, and we got to talk about the Peninsula's Last Straw. So the Peninsula's Last Straw started as a waste reduction workshop through the Shire and Tangaroa Blue. We were asked to assess our litter items and pick a litter item that we wanted to address and create a campaign around. So we didn't choose cigarette butts. I later chose cigarette butts as a litter item. But for the purpose of that waste and resource reduction workshop, we chose straws, because oftentimes we found a lot of straws and we felt that it was a good thing to approach. Beach Patrol in South Melbourne had done a Last Straw campaign. So Gary from Beach Patrol got the literature from there, and then as a graphic designer, I took the prominent seahorse on a cotton bud at the time and replaced the cotton bud with a straw. Because I work with a lot of businesses, oftentimes people don't want to adopt programs because they don't like the look of them. So we were really attentive to try and align the campaign with the Best Bites program of the Shire. and that it would be adopted under that. The Peninsulas Are Straw started in Dramana, and then Amy Yang from the Shire was forthright in saying that we could have gone for funding, and she put the Peninsulas Are Straw forward for the Keep Australia Beautiful, Keep Victoria Beautiful Gift Fund Award, which we were a recipient, so that's $1,000. That $1,000 went towards straws, which rolled out the Peninsulas Are Straw across Rye. So it was Michelle Cheers and myself who did that. So again, coming down to volunteers. Initially, when we did the workshop, I think that there was around 30 of us, but Michelle might confirm there. And oftentimes people have good intentions, but they, you know, everyone has other obligations. And so therefore, Michelle and I rolled the program out across Rye with the aim to make Rye plastic straw free. We then did a workshop through the Shire because we were approached by the University of Tasmania by a PhD student who was sponsored for her PhD through National Geographic. So again, we have another National Geographic connection, but what an amazing opportunity. And again, it's a volunteer capacity, but we saw that there was just such a fantastic opportunity to expand the project. So we looked at the troubles that we had in engaging individuals to volunteer. And with the help of Amy Yang from the Shire, we ran a workshop at the Lifesaving Club in Mount Martha. And out of that, we were able to then engage another 11 towns to roll out the project. And we used the monies from the funding from National Geographic to purchase the straws. And so there's people in places, and obviously we were on such a roll, we were doing so well. We actually undertook creating a story with the Sea Road Ferries. So Sea Road Ferries did a fairy tale about the Peninsula's Last Straw, and they have a database that they reach out to each year of 1 million people. So that story would have been sent across to 1 million people. So for such a small campaign, and a campaign that's basically got the best of intentions, it's been able to reach far and wide. The amazing girls from Wastewise Peninsula actually used the Peninsula's Are Straw, and Beata was mentioning that earlier, where plastic straws are just such a small item, but it's actually a great conversation starter, and it doesn't make people feel overwhelmed by the process of having to swap. We look at a national goal that by 2025 that everything through the plastics fabrication industry would be compostable, recyclable or reusable. So looking at that model and looking at the attitudes of businesses, we were able to do a value assessment. So when we sold it, so we ended up like on the House of Wellness, we were on radio. The engagements that we had, the opportunities that we had allowed us to be able to use that as leverage. And then we made a real special focus. And I want to say this because when I went into businesses and asked them to convert from plastic straws to paper, one of the biggest things for them was cost. But we were able to demonstrate that the way that we ran the campaign, by reducing straws from being actually on the counter and putting them behind the counter and only providing them on request, that we could validate that extra cost that was associated to paper straws. And we're also able to give people paper straws. So we had all the literature, we had a system in which we ran the campaign, and we basically had little to no resistance, although we learned a lot about people along the way. And we also were able to use social media to not only showcase that a business had come on board, but also that what made them unique. So just before COVID, the biggest win that we had was the Peninsula Cinemas. So for Rosebud, Sorrento, we got them to surrender their straws, and I can happily say that basically like one whole part of my garage is filled with plastic straws right now that need to be recycled. But what an encouraging win to get the cinemas on board and to have them surrender their straws. So not only do we convert the businesses to paper straws, we also ask them to surrender. So then that doesn't allow them to return to plastic straws later. It enables them to continue on with that process. So if they follow the process of the Peninsula's Last Straw, they'll significantly reduce the amount of straws that they hand out, but they can also change their behaviour, and it's a great catalyst for change.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Josie, and everyone else that presented today. It was truly inspirational to listen to all your projects. I'm just going to pass it off really quickly to Sabina, our CEO, to say some final words, and then hang on because we'll get everyone to turn their cameras on and unmute everyone. Do a huge clap for everyone who presented today. Sabina?
Hello.
Yes, Dick. How about you do the final?
You sure you talk about it, Sabini?
Well, I've had a fantastic morning, and I'd really love to thank Emma for doing such a great job in getting everyone together. But I'd love everyone that's left, and we've unfortunately had a few people that had to leave, but everyone do a big clap for everyone. All these projects have been amazing.
Perfect. Here, I'll unmute everyone really quick. Yay. I should unmute. Ah. There we go. Nope. It's not letting me unmute everyone.
What a wonderful group from the Mornington Peninsula.
Yeah. Oh, look, it was amazing. I just have to say, there was so much diversity, so much community action, everything from environment, litter, LGBTI community, Indigenous community. We had opera, bare bottoms. There wasn't anything that was left out. And it was very exciting, and you should be very proud.
Many thanks to the Shire for all the work you've done.
I was gonna say, I'll give Michelle a huge round of applause for pulling a lot of these together. I think almost everyone in today's group had to deal with her. So thank you, Michelle, for everything you did here.
I feel very blessed to be able to be involved with all these people. It brings tears to my eyes on days like this, that they're just such wonderful community members, and we're so fortunate on the peninsula. And I'm fortunate to be able to be involved with them.
Well, thank you for everything, everyone. I know it was a little bit longer, but I just loved listening to all the presentations we had today. And if you have some time tomorrow or Thursday, we have a 10 a.m. and a 2 p.m. presentation as well. They're a little bit smaller, so they won't go quite as long. But if you want to continue to be inspired, we encourage you to join in on those as well.
Good on you, Emmy.
Fantastic job, Emma.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you to everyone for attending, and have a wonderful day. Stay safe, get outside, enjoy the sunshine for your hour walk that you can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.